What's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining us for another edition of LTMB Live. This is the third straight day of LTMB Live. That's something that we have never done before. Ever.
No.
That's a first.
Not in any time in LTMB history.
No,
has
we're
that
breaking
ever
new
happened.
ground here. It's been hectic. Just keeping up with the debates, compiling all of this stuff. It's been hectic, but this is what we do. So we're glad to be here with you. What is the first day in August? No, is it first? Yeah, today's the first day in August.
August 1st.
August 1st, first day in August. Okay. Broadcasting live on YouTube. I was about to say Facebook again. It's just the automatic. But anyway, YouTube, Twitch, and Periscope Live. If you are on YouTube, please do like this. First of all, follow the channel. Subscribe. Hit the button to get the notifications. And this particular broadcast as well, please hit the like button if you would. We would appreciate that.
When's the last time we even did Facebook Live?
Boy. I do get the notifications talking about, it's like what happened a year ago on this day. Like you have I forgot what kind of notification it comes
I know what you're talking about. Yeah. And you have to approve whether it gets posted again.
Yeah.
You share the memory or whatever.
Yeah, you have a memory with, and there's always memories with you because we always used to do that on Facebook, tag ourselves. But yeah, it's been probably coming to a year. Maybe it's been over a year, but I have no idea. I don't know.
There's no telling.
I don't know. But no plans of right now to go back to Facebook Live. No plans of that right now. So we do have people already watching. Thank you for being here. Like I said, keeping up with the debates has been definitely an effort. We did it last night. And we did it in about 2 hours too, which was impressive because we do like to, delve into the details and really discuss the different issues that the candidates talk about. We are not under any time constraints tonight.
Yeah,
so
because
good.
we don't have a debate to get to,
right.
So that helps.
Still want to get through it as quick as possible though, because we do have a lot of clips that we have to show, and I believe in this on this show because of last night, there are a few clips that are going to be a little bit longer too. Talking about maybe like 3 minutes or something like that. There's just a few like that, but you just couldn't condense it any further than that. But let's just get to it, okay? Let's get to it. This was the second night. This was the second night of the second presidential Democratic debates. We went over the first night yesterday, and towards the end of the night last night, we shared our opinions about who we thought were probably the overall winners. Which I think Bernie Sanders had a very good performance. Elizabeth Warren did, and Mary Williamson did as well. Mary Williamson was according to Google Trends, she was the most searched candidate during the debate.
Mm-hmm. I think her last debate, she was highly searched, but for a different reason.
Yeah, true. That is true. But losers of that debate probably would have to start and maybe end with John Delaney.
Yo,
John Delaney.
Man, like, if he hasn't,
it's a character, man.
Yeah, he's definitely a character. It's hard to see in real time, but when the wonderful people of the internet take little snapshots and close-ups and then post them, you're like, this dude is goofy as hell.
Yeah, he's very.
But that's not really the prime reason why we don't like him or why most people don't like him. He's basically a corporate shill.
Yeah, he is.
And he's essentially the equivalent of an internet troll.
Yeah.
In the Democratic presidential candidate field. So
he's very fake too. We showed that clip after the first debate, not this one, but you remember when he was this was post debate and he was gonna
he was getting ready to go on.
Yeah, he was getting ready to go
it was like
on.
that little dead time, and
Yes.
he was like.
He was just chilling. All of a sudden, gotta get ready for the camera.
He kind of like stuttered too. He was like, yeah, it's like, dog, it's scary. Yeah, probably doesn't have a soul. That's probably why.
But anyway, but he did announce that he had an uptick in funding because of last night. So good job, John. Good job.
You mean the night before last?
Yeah, the night before last. That's right. Well, he announced that yesterday.
Oh yeah,
though, right?
yeah. He announced it yesterday, but an uptick because of his great performance. There was an uptick in fundraising. You know where he announced this? He went to Fox News. This dude had to run to Fox News. He ran to Fox News for some, I guess, to get. They consoled him, and they were basically. They were with him. They were on his side about how ridiculous and extreme the Democrats are, and how he needs to be there.
Because if they can pick a Democrat to support,
it would be him, and he knows that. That's why he went on Fox, because that's the only place where I guess his words would be taken seriously. But it was sad. It was embarrassing. Like his fundraising probably went up because he was like.
Throwing some funds in there.
Throwing his own money in there. But yeah, let's get to this, man.
All right, so let's start with it, okay? So again, this is a CNN debate, so it started the same way: presentation of the colors, the national anthem. Again, not fond of that whatsoever, but whatever. So candidates made their opening statements. We're going to show you a few opening statements that, I won't say that maybe these were the best, but I guess these made the biggest imprint, I think, of the opening statement. So here we go.
Tonight, we have to get to the heart and soul of who we are as Democrats. There are good people on this stage, but there are real differences. Joe Biden told wealthy donors that nothing fundamentally would change if he were president. Kamala Harris said she's not trying to restructure society. Well, I am. For 40 years, working people have taken it on the chin in this country. For 40 years, the rich have gotten richer, and they paid less and less in taxes. It cannot go on this way. When I'm president, we will even up the score, and we will tax the hell out of the wealthy to make this a fairer country and to make sure it's a country that puts working people first.
Thank you, Mayor de Blasio.
Raise your hand in the crowd if you've seen stores closing where you live. It is not just you. Amazon is closing 30% of America's stores and malls and paying zero in taxes while doing it. We need to do the opposite of much of what we're doing right now, and the opposite of Donald Trump is an Asian man who likes math. So let me share the math. $1,000 a month for every adult would be $461 million every month right here in Detroit alone. The automation of our jobs is a central challenge facing us today. It is why Donald Trump is our president, and any politician not addressing it is failing the American people.
You know, we have a president, as everybody's acknowledged here, every day is ripping at the social fabric of this country. But no one man has the capacity to rip that apart. It's too strong. We're too good. Just look at this stage, made up of very diverse people from diverse backgrounds. Went on to be mayors, senators, governors, congresswomen, members of the cabinet, and yes, even a vice president. Mr. President, this is America, and we are strong and great because of this diversity, Mr. President, not in spite of it, Mr. President. So, Mr. President, let's get something straight. We love it. We are not leaving it. We are here to stay, and we're certainly not going to leave it to you.
So, I think especially in the case of Biden, I think it appeared to be a very strong statement just to open it up. And it didn't really get too much better for Biden during the entire debate. The debate.
So you're just trying to give him something. Like his
opening,
his opening was good,
yes.
But after that it went downhill.
Now,
is that what you're saying?
There were a few moments during this debate where I guess he made some good points, and he did come off well, or at least he I guess brought up a negative point about somebody else, and he kind of came off well because of that. So we're gonna get to those, but I think this was one of those moments in the debate where Joe Biden did come off kind of well. He wasn't. It wasn't an opportunity for anybody to challenge him or anything. He just had to make a statement, and he chose to go to diversity, which is strong.
And did you notice what Bill de Blasio did, though? He did the same thing that Delaney did.
Yes.
Because in Delaney's opening statement.
And Hickenlooper.
Yes, right. At the Tuesday's Democratic debate, Delaney opened with kind of direct attacks on Sanders and Warren.
Right.
De Blasio did the same thing.
Right.
I think if you want to judge who has the, I guess, more wiggle room to do that, I would say de Blasio, but he has major problems too. What else? Biden, like you said, it was a good opening statement. I didn't have a problem with it, but I do think something he said undercuts the entire we got to beat Trump narrative. We got to get Trump out the White House, because he was talking about how great the country is, how great America is, how wonderful the American spirit is, all that yada, 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 USA, USA. And then he says no one man has the power to break that apart. I was like, okay then, if that's the case.
That's true.
If that's the case, if no one man has the power to break that apart,
then it's not just about Trump.
Then it's not just about Trump, and you can't go into it with the strategy to just beat Trump, and once we get him out, everything will be good.
Yeah. Yang had a nice line talking about pretty much there's nothing, or the opposite of Trump is an Asian man that likes math.
Maths.
Yeah.
Cover.
It was witty.
Using a stereotype to take a shot at somebody else.
Yeah. It was witty. And, we don't like when people do that and it doesn't land. If you're going to tell a joke, if you're going to be witty, make it interesting, make it a little bit fun. And I think Yang did it pretty well. We've seen others like Swalwell. We saw Tim Ryan do it.
Oh, man, yeah.
Like,
it bombed. Gillibrand did it last night a few times, and it's like it didn't fit.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on. All right, so the first subject of this debate, the first topic that the candidates talked about, discussed, was, again, healthcare. Of course it was healthcare. It's always healthcare. Which is appropriate. It's definitely one of the biggest issues in the Democratic base. So we're going to begin with Harris, Senator Kamala Harris, and former VP Joe Biden kind of going back at each other on the issue of healthcare. And I believe it begins with Harris, I guess, explaining what her plan is and why it is Medicare for all.
You already setting it up in a particular way. That's funny.
I mean, look, she considers it to be Medicare for all, but it has changed. So she's going to explain that.
This week, you released a new health care plan, which would preserve private insurance and take 10 years to phase in. Vice President Biden's campaign calls your plan, quote, a have it every which way approach, and says it's just part of a confusing pattern of equivocating about your health care stance. What do you say to that?
Well, they're probably confused because they've not read it. But the reality is that I have been spending time in this campaign listening to American families, listening to experts, listening to healthcare providers. And what I came away with is a very clear understanding that I needed to create a plan that was responsive to the needs of the American people, responsive to their needs, understanding that insurance companies have been jacking up the prices for far too long, that American families have to be held down by deductibles and co-pays and premiums that can cause them bankruptcy. I listened to the American families who said 4 years is just not enough to transition into this new plan, so I devised a plan where it's going to be 10 years of a transition. I listened to American families who said, I want an option that will be under your Medicare system that allows a private plan. So I designed a plan where, yes, responsive to the needs of American families, there will be a public plan under my plan for Medicare and a private plan under my plan for Medicare. Because the bottom line is this: we must agree that access to health care must be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And in America today, far too many people, in fact, 30 million people, are going without access to health care.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Vice President Biden, your response.
Well, my response is that the senators had several plans so far. And anytime someone tells you you're going to get something good in 10 years, you should wonder why it takes 10 years. If you notice, there's no talk about the fact that the plan in 10 years will cost $3 trillion. You will lose your employer-based insurance. And in fact, this is the single most important issue facing the public. And to be very blunt and to be very straightforward, you can't beat President Trump with double talk on this plan. The plan, no matter how you cut it, costs $3 trillion when it is in fact employed. Number one, 10 years from now, after 2 terms of the senator being president, after her time. Secondly, it will require middle-class taxes to go up, not down. Thirdly, it will eliminate employer-based insurance. And fourthly, what happens in the meantime?
All right. Can I do something first?
Yeah,
man?
go ahead.
Looking up the direction of all, just for clarity. I'm looking up the direction of all. Because
The word?
The word all.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm not sure about it anymore. I'm really not. I've been very confused lately.
Yeah.
Specifically
it
during.
It gets confusing.
It gets confusing. Specifically during.
Has it been redefined?
I think it has.
Yeah.
So I am quite confused at why certain individuals, certain presidential candidates, particularly Kamala Harris, is still using the term Medicare for all. But in the description of her plan, and her plan is not all, what it does sound like, and I think you would agree with me, is that she wants private insurance in the private healthcare insurance industry to preside over Medicare for all.
Yes.
In some kind of way.
In some kind. It basically sounds like the situation that we have currently. We have Medicare for seniors, and I guess that would be extended to I guess it could be extended to everybody under her plan. But we also have Medicare Advantage as well. So, look, the whole reason why we have Medicare Advantage in our system right now is because Medicare it's not sufficient. Medicare by itself is not sufficient. I kind of went into that on the last program because I do have some experience with this. There's a lot of seniors where if you're going to the doctor with any kind of regularity, Medicare just is not going to foot the bill. So you do need something extra. Some people choose some people choose Medicare Advantage, some people choose a Medicare supplement. But whatever the case, you need something in addition. So Kamala Harris's idea is to give everybody the same old insufficient product as Medicare, but you will also have the choice of paying something extra as well in Medicare Advantage.
Biden made one good point. He made one good point.
He made a couple. Actually, he made a couple.
Okay, you think he made a couple?
Yeah,
okay. Because he made like 4 or 5 different ones. 2 of them tied together.
Yeah.
But the first one was the time issue.
Right.
Now, he mentioned time being a problem, not for the same reason I would. Because the phase-in period is 10 years.
Right.
When's the last time one party had power for that long? 10 years?
10 years.
At the most, it would be 2. At the most. The next president?
Well, 2 terms.
2 terms, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, 2 terms. At most, the next
And that was a strong point because, again, he said it wouldn't even take effect until 2 years after you got out of office.
So what that does guarantee is, because she's looking to be the president and she's looking to win. So if she does win and she becomes president and this goes into effect, that guarantees she won't have to be the one to see it through. So that won't be on her back. She can't be.
Yeah. You would have to hope that there's another Democratic president that comes after her.
It seems like that's why she would do something like that. Like, hey, I'm going to make a deal with the insurance companies. I'm going to make a deal with them and ensure them that, hey, they will, get their piece of the pie while I'm in office. And then after
I'm done with it.
I'm done with it. I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to worry about like dealing with that 10-year phase-in period because I'm gone.
But she did not say that it was the insurance companies that had convinced her that this was the best way forward. She said it was American families. She said that she talked to American families and they told her 4 years wasn't long enough to transition to a program like this. Now, what American family? Please tell me what. Now, I could fathom that private insurers private insurance companies. I could fathom that where they would be like, well, you know what, 4 years? That's not long enough for us, you know. Well, it's not. We need more time. We need to make some more profits, you know. You got to give us some more time, okay? But an American family, would anybody tell a politician, well, you know what? I do want Medicare for all, but I don't want it now. Could you make it happen 10 years from now? You could? Okay, that's great. That works better for me.
She took a poll. She must have taken a poll.
If you are supportive of the idea, wouldn't you want it as soon as possible?
As soon as possible. But according to her, that is possible. It can't be done before then.
And American families are the experts.
Our
that
American
told her.
families are the experts that told her.
Oh
that.
my gosh, man.
She expects us to believe that.
Oh my goodness, man. She is. Oh wow. Okay.
What are some good points you thought he made?
Actually, well, you addressed them both. I didn't tie them together, but the point that he made was about something taking 10 years. You know, if somebody says it's going to take 10 years to do something, you have to be kind of curious about that. Why would something good take that long to get there, right?
Okay, tell me where he tanked. Tell me where his point.
Man, when he pointed to the cost, because he said no matter which way you slice it, it's going to cost $3 trillion. Now, old Joe. He did not tell you what we are currently spending on healthcare in the United States of America, which isn't it about $3 trillion?
Yeah.
It's about $3 trillion right this minute. So if the plan that she is or anybody else is going to cost $3 trillion, it's about the same right now. But one thing that we have discussed before is that what is suspected to happen in the coming years is that the cost for insurance is going to rise. I think I can't remember. I think it's maybe in 5 or 10 years, it's expected to rise to over $5 trillion a year. That's what we're currently doing right now. So, old Joe, I don't think the numbers work out for you because it would save money. If it does cost $3 trillion, it would save money.
You know what he's completely leaving out? He's leaving out the fact that the overhead cost of private insurance will go away.
Yes. That's not,
and
that's
so
not
he
even
also
considering that.
and he also did the taxes scare tactic,
Of course
where
he
the
did.
taxes will go up. But then, yes, taxes on some earners will go up. But guess what else will happen at the same time, tangentially?
Costs go down.
Costs go down because they don't have insurance premiums.
Exactly. Deductibles,
Co-pays. Oh, his copay of what, $1,000? Yay!
That's what he said.
That's what he said. He didn't say it there.
No, not here.
It's
He
later.
said it a bit later.
But yeah, $1,000. That's what he's pushing. As if that's
affordable.
That's affordable.
Yeah, people have that kind of money.
Yeah. So I didn't like that. Of course, the employer insurance he mentioned.
Right.
We talked about that when we were critiquing his ad.
Right. So that was one of the points that I was talking about at the beginning, where Joe Biden had some good points, but in his commentary, he still pointed to how his plan is still horrible as well. So it's a mixed bag here.
It's just like one of those situations where you have the two Spider-Mans pointing at each other.
True.
It was that was all throughout the debate. That was just one of the moments.
All right, so we're going to stay on healthcare for a little while. On this clip, we're going to hear from New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio.
I don't know what the vice president and senator are talking about. The folks I talk to about health insurance say that their health insurance isn't working for them. There's tens of millions of Americans who don't even have health insurance, tens of millions more who have health insurance they can barely make work because of the copays, the deductibles, the premiums, the out-of-pocket expenses. There's this mythology that somehow all these folks are in love with their insurance in America. What I hear from union members and from hardworking middle-class people is they wish they had better insurance. And they're angry at private insurance companies that skim all the profits off the top and make it impossible for everyday people to get coverage like mental health care,
Thank you,
dental
Mr.
care,
Mayor.
the things that would be full coverage
Thank
for
you,
all
Mr.
Americans.
Mayor.
I think he made one of your talking points.
Yeah, man. It's something that I think it's important to consistently harp on. Nobody's satisfied with their insurance company. Nobody cares about Blue Cross Blue Shield, Aetna, United Healthcare. You can name any other one that's in the healthcare field. Nobody cares about them. They care about the product that is being delivered to them, and they care about how much it's going to cost them. They care, like, the care that they're talking about is the actual medical care. They care about their doctors, their nurse practitioners. That's what they care about. Like, if these services are going to be covered, that's what they care about. But the particular company that's doing the servicing, that can come and go. It doesn't matter who they are.
When people kind of talk about the issues that they have as far as like healthcare in general, right? Mm-hmm. Usually what is their concern? Usually when people have a complaint about getting something done,
right,
getting a procedure done, having some kind of surgery, or I don't know, being able to get like, I don't know, hip replacement, anything like that. I hardly ever hear people, talk about like the actual health care, the care they get. Yes, they talk about it and they want to get the best care, but when it comes to like the problems and the frustrations.
Oh, right.
The frustrations, where do they usually start?
They start with the insurance company.
Because
insurance companies, and I think Elizabeth Warren made this point on Tuesday night, the whole reason why there are so many forms for patients and doctors to fill out is so that insurance companies have an opportunity to say no and deny services. So that's where the frustration always stems from, because a particular service, a particular operation or whatever, a treatment, is not covered by the insurance company. That's where the frustration is.
And I think what that leads to is healthcare providers, the actual providers, being hamstrung and limited to what they can do for patients, because that might prompt them to be like, well, okay, your insurance is not going to pay for this, so we'll do this instead, even though that's not going to solve the problem.
Right. All right, so let's get to, next clip is with Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, still on the subject of healthcare.
The truth about healthcare in America today is people can't afford it. They cannot afford it. And the insurance companies, for these plans that rely on insurance companies, I'm sorry, they're for-profit companies. They have an obligation to their shareholders. They pay their CEO millions of dollars. They have to have quarterly profits. They have fat in the system that's real, and it should be going to healthcare. So let's not lose the forest for the trees. And last, let's not forget what the Republicans are doing, because the truth is the Republicans and Trump, their whole goal is to take away your health care, to make it harder for you to afford it, even if you have pre-existing conditions.
I don't like her overall, but
strong point.
That's a strong point. I think that's the major point, and that's the best point that she can make if we're talking about why healthcare costs are continually going up.
Right. Yeah, I don't have a lot to add to that. I like that she brought in to her talking points
bonuses.
The Republicans.
Republicans. Okay.
Because, she has, her idea about healthcare is, it's more progressive than most of them. So definitely she has a difference of opinion with a lot of people that are on that stage on healthcare. But again, this is about winning an election, and you got to win an election against the Republicans ultimately. So I like that she included that.
And she also kind of, I would say, passively called out those on the stage and those within her own party for kind of presenting Republican talking points.
Right.
Basically, hey, don't be like them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad she brought up the profit motive for insurance companies.
No doubt.
Obligation to shareholders and CEO bonuses and whatnot like that. So.
Sure. All right, so now we're going to hear from Senator Cory Booker, subject of healthcare again.
You say you support Medicare for all. You also say you are not going to pull private health insurance from more than 150 million Americans in exchange for a government plan. But that's what Medicare for all would do. So how do you square that?
Well, first of all, let me just say that the person who's enjoying this debate most right now is Donald Trump, as we pit Democrats against each other, while he is working right now to take away Americans' health care. There's a court case working through the system that's going to gut the Affordable Care Act and actually gut protections on pre-existing conditions. And so I was raised by two civil rights parents who told me to always keep your eyes on the prize. And that is that in the United States of America, every Democrat should stand with the belief that everyone should have access to health care, that it's a human right. And how we get there, it has to be to end this broken system, because we are on our way in just a handful of years of literally spending 20% of our economy, one out of every $5 spent on health care. And we spend more than every other nation on everything from MRIs to insulin drugs, multiple more than other countries. And so you want to know what I'm going to do? I'm going to work to get us to a point where Medicare for all, where everyone is covered. But this pitting against progressives, against moderates, saying one is unrealistic and the other doesn't care enough, that to me is dividing our party and demoralizing us in face of the real enemy here.
Thank you,
I'm
Senator.
going to keep fighting for that end.
Thank you, Senator.
Corey. How are you going to implement a Medicare for all system where everyone is covered and not get rid of the insurance industry?
Did you catch that?
Oh, I caught that.
Did you catch that?
I caught it. I know you caught it.
Yeah.
I know y'all caught it too. All that talking and, this kind of political posturing where he just spoke a lot of words.
Mm-hmm. Without saying much.
Yeah, I filtered through all that, and it was obvious that he was contradicting himself. But, he says we need to end the broken system when it's clear what is breaking the system. Mm-hmm. But what is breaking the system, he doesn't want to get rid of.
Cory Booker is, he's a pretty good politician, man.
Yes,
he has kind of mastered the art of being a politician, and that whole political speak type thing, that jargon, and not answering questions, being evasive. Oh yeah, he has that down pat. He didn't answer the question. The question was about Medicare for all and private insurance. If you support Medicare for all, then you would have to admit that private insurers will not be involved anymore in just general medicine, in general health care. But he won't do that. Instead, he pivots to talking about Trump. He pivots to saying that, who's really enjoying this conversation is Donald Trump. Because here we are, Democrats going after each other on the subject of healthcare, progressives, moderates, I'm keeping my eye on the bigger picture. The whole point of a debate, the whole point of campaigning is to draw a distinction between yourself and other candidates, to paint yourself as different, to paint your ideas as the best. That's why you're on stage. It's not going after other Democrats if you don't think, if you think their plan won't serve the best interest of people, then you have to point that out in a campaign. If your idea is in the best interest for people, then you have to say that. That's not bickering. That's not personal attacks. That's just doing the business that you're there to do. But again, this is Cory Booker, the phony, the absolute phony. We have seen when Cory Booker was being actually genuine and how it comes across. This was as phony as you can get. He did not want to answer the question because he does not want to say that private insurance is going away, because that's not his intention. This was the guy, do you remember when Bernie Sanders came out with the bill? Do you remember at the podium, who was the biggest cheerleader on that podium?
Cory Booker.
Like it was his plan.
Like it was his plan. He was he looked like Malcolm X in the background behind Bernie Sanders. But trotting out the whole, Democrats don't need to be pitted against each other and this is helping Donald Trump. That to me points to an insecurity, right? Mm-hmm. He's very self-aware and knows that he's not going as far as he should go when it comes to Medicare for all. Mm-hmm. And when he says not to pit Democrats against one another, what he is telling us is, hey, don't look at my plan. Mm-hmm. Don't look at
don't
how
attack me.
That's exactly what he's saying. Mm-hmm. Don't attack me. He makes it about Democrats. Obviously he has to. He can't say, hey, I don't I don't want to feel attacked here. Don't attack me, man. I know I'm, lacking in this area. I know I double talk, and I know I'm backtracking from a bill that I cheerleaded. But don't point at me hard, like I backpedaled hard, like a DB backpedal, like a defensive back. So he's not going to say that. He's just going to say, hey, Democrats just need to play nice with each other. Civility. Again, it would make sense if he actually did that through the rest of the debate with all the other topics, which he didn't. So you know that's just
He did not. He did not, as you will see.
So you know that was just a talking point to protect himself.
All right, so let's keep it moving. Here in this next clip, I think we're going to get to, yes. All right, so still on the subject of healthcare. Now, Representative Tulsi Gabbard gets involved in the conversation, and she sort of challenges Kamala Harris on the issue.
The reality is right now we don't have a healthcare system. We have a sick care system, and there are far too many people in this country who are sick and unable to get the care that they need because they cannot afford it. So at the core of this problem is the fact that big insurance companies and big pharmaceutical companies who've been profiting off the backs of sick people have had a seat at the table writing this legislation. Now, Kamala Harris just talked about Kathleen Sebelius, who helped write her bill. This just pointed to the fatal flaw in her proposal. Sebelius works for Medicare Advantage, private insurance company who will stand to profit under her plan. If we're seeking to really reform our healthcare system, we've got to shut out big insurance and big pharma out of the drafting process so they cannot continue to profit off the backs of the sick people in this country who are searching and in desperate need of care.
Senator Harris, your response?
Well, unfortunately, Representative Gabbard got it wrong. Kathleen Sebelius did not write my plan. She endorsed it as being one of the plans that is the best to get us to a place where everyone is going to have access to health care in America. And when we talk about this again, I'm going to go back to Vice President Biden, because your plan does not cover everyone in America by your staff's and your own definition. 10 million people, as many as 10 million people, will not have access to health care. And in 2019 in America, for a Democrat to be running for president with a plan that does not cover everyone, I think is without excuse. Our plan covers everyone and gives people choice.
Thank you.
That was... out of the two people that were awful at defending themselves in this debate were Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. That was one of the instances where Kamala Harris, to me, was awful. Maybe to the general viewer, what she said went over, but like, how did she defend herself? In a way that really is inconsequential.
Yeah, she corrected Tulsi Gabbard.
Corrected.
She said, no, this woman at the Kathleen Sebelius, I'm not sure who that is, but apparently she works for a Medicare Advantage company, private insurance. She said, no, this this woman, did not help write my plan. She endorsed it.
She just endorsed it. Oh, well, there it is. That totally just obliterates Tulsi's point, doesn't it?
Of course she endorsed it.
Of course she endorsed it.
You're preserving her job.
It doesn't it doesn't take anything away from Tulsi's point. No. You do realize that, right?
Yeah. And look, do we know if she wrote it or not? Or did she help write it or not? No.
But she sure did.
Did she have a voice?
Oh, she had a voice.
I'm sure she had. I'm sure she voiced her concerns about Medicare for all, like true Medicare for all.
But Kamala just admitted that. She's trying to admit something that she thinks has a lesser impact on Tulsi's point, or a lesser impact on Kamala's capitulation to the private healthcare insurance industry. Like, I'm like, yo, if let's say, I'm trying to think of a decent analogy here. Maybe I can make an analogy of like a fictitious character, like, I don't know, Jason, or like some sort of horror movie murderer, right? Maybe I kill somebody and I make the plan myself. I make the plan to go forth with this killing, right? But Jason, or Freddy, or any of these fictitious or fictional characters that are murderers themselves, serial killers, they didn't help me write my plan.
Right.
But they endorsed my plan. Would it matter? My murderous spree, when I go out, just murder the public, just chopping people up.
In the overall scheme of things.
The overall scheme of things, even though they didn't help me write my murder plan out.
I don't think it mattered much.
If Freddie,
murderer, endorses another murderer.
Freddie. Yeah. What's his name? Jacksaw. What? Hacksaw Jacksaw. What's his name from Saw?
Yeah, I don't know what his name.
I was whatever. Yeah, and Jason, Michael Myers, whatever. They all endorse my murder plan. I think that says something about me. Like, you know what I'm saying?
True. I think so. The last point that she made was, I think actually that was my biggest takeaway. Her last line, she said her plan covers everyone and gives people choice. Now, I think again that's one of those lines that kind of just skates by and nobody really pays attention to. But if you really think about what she said, covers everyone and gives people choice. Choice is the operative word. Choice. There's this illusion that people actually care about which insurance company they have. They really want to choose between Blue Cross Blue Shield, Aetna, United Healthcare, whatever other. Like I said, there's hundreds of other insurance companies. Mm-hmm. The illusion is that they actually care about that. No. People care about the care they are getting. So if you're talking about people having the opportunity to choose their doctor, they definitely care about that. Do they care about choosing the facility that they go to? They definitely care about that. Choosing the insurance company? You're telling me that a regular person is going to care that you strip away these insurance companies and provide them with a government plan that takes care of everything that was covered and possibly more for less money? People are going to care because you took away the choice of picking a private health insurance company?
Like when people are looking at an insurance
That's a
plan,
fallacy.
When people are looking at an insurance plan, they're not looking at like the company that's offering them the insurance. They're not looking at that Blue Cross Blue Shield.
No.
Oh, that's tight, son. Like I'm glad that I got this. This
take pride in the company.
What are they looking for? They're looking for what does this cover?
Exactly.
They're looking for
more than anything else.
They're looking for what it covers, which means healthcare is the primary focus to them. You know what I'm saying? Like, for instance, if you're a fan of a football team, right? Or you're just a fan of football. Like, you're a fan of Atlanta, you're a fan of New York, you're a fan of Jacksonville, whatever. You like your team. And somebody else took over the NFL and nothing would change. It was called like the QFL. And nothing changed. Nothing changed. Would people be mad if they could still watch football?
No.
No. On their team? No.
It's a fallacy, man.
Yeah.
People don't care. People care about choice, but not in that regard.
No. If you can still watch a football team on TV and you still have that ability, you're still going to do it. You're not going to be like, oh, man, the little logo don't say NFL no more. You're not going to do that.
All right. So let's get to... I believe here we're going to get to Andrew Yang, Bill de Blasio, and Senator Michael Bennet, all talking about the issue of healthcare.
Well, I just want to share a story. When I told my wife I was running for president, the first question she asked me? What are we going to do about our healthcare? That's a true story, and it's not just us. Democrats are talking about healthcare in the wrong way. As someone who's run a business, I can tell you flat out our current healthcare system makes it harder to hire. It makes it harder to treat people well and give them benefits and treat them as full-time employees. It makes it harder to switch jobs, as Senator Harris just said, and it's certainly a lot harder to start a business. If we say, look, we're going to get healthcare off the backs of businesses and families, then watch American entrepreneurship recover and bloom. That's the argument we should be making to the American people.
Thank you, Mr. Yang. Mayor de Blasio.
Yeah. I don't understand why Democrats on this stage are fear-mongering about universal health care. It makes no sense. Ask the American people. They are sick of what the pharmaceutical companies are doing to them. Ask them what they feel about the health insurance companies. They feel it's holding back their families because they can't get the coverage they need. They get a lot of no's. They don't get a lot of help from health insurance companies. Why are we not going to be the party that does something bold, that says we don't need to be dependent on private insurance? We can have a system that actually covers everyone. You know what? Donald Trump won this state of Michigan by saying he was going to disrupt the status quo. How about we be the party that's going to disrupt the status quo for working people?
Mr. Mayor, just a 15-second point of clarification. Who are you talking about? Who's fear-mongering?
Certainly, with all due respect to Senator Bennet, what he's saying is absolutely inaccurate about taxes. Americans right now are paying so much money for their health care. Ask people about the reality of premiums, deductibles, co-pays, out-of-pocket expenses. That's worse than any tax.
Thank you.
And people are paying that right now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Senator Bennet.
This has nothing to do with Republican talking points or the pharmaceutical industry. This has to do with having faith in the American people that they can make the right decisions for their families and they can choose a public option. Bernie Sanders, who said last night he wrote the damn bill, and he did, just like I wrote the damn public option bill, is the guy who says it'll cost $32 trillion and that we're going to have to raise those taxes to pay for it. He says that. Republicans don't say it. Don't try to distract from the truth.
Thank you, Senator.
You can't hide from the truth.
Those were good points by Yang and by Mayor Bill de Blasio as well. And Mayor Bill de Blasio is right about the fear-mongering and about these being Republican talking points with like Senator Michael Bennet. He points to the cost. The cost is going to cost, $30 trillion over 10 years. Over 10 years now. Again, people like him are not admitting what we are currently paying for healthcare in this country and how it is expected to rise over the next 10 years.
And how many people go bankrupt,
right?
Trying to pay their healthcare bills.
That's why it is considered a Republican talking point, because we know Republicans don't actually want to do anything on healthcare. They don't actually want to give people what they deserve.
I don't even care what you call it. It's still a bad talking point.
Yes.
Like, you can call it Republican. I don't care what you call it. But I like how he got all upset because he was called out, and then proceeds to make the same arguments that he said he wasn't going to make.
Right.
That's what he did. He was making Republican talking arguments. But what does faith in the American people have to do with anything?
I don't know, man. We want to put faith. Well, we want to have faith in the American people to choose what's best for them. So we want to give them the opportunity to choose a government program or private insurance. Hey, they'll choose what's best for them. We don't have to take away.
That just sounded
insurance.
like he was like wrapping this whole conversation in like a patriotic bow. With that patriotic language, American have to have the faith in the American people. It's like this has nothing to do with that. That's what he was trying to do. That was very manipulative. But is there another country that's really close to us that has a universal health care system?
Yeah, neighbors to the north.
They're right there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we're gonna make a point about moving towards a system like that, and judging whether that's going to be good for us, wouldn't we kind of use them as a reference point?
It'd be pretty easy to do that.
Be very.
There are many countries.
There are many countries, but I'm just saying they're the closest. They're the closest one. Like, you can just reach up and touch them.
I mean, everybody has phones now too. You can call, you can ask,
or you could just
you can go up there.
Or you could just get on the internet.
Yeah, that was one too. You wouldn't have to even leave the office.
As far as I'm concerned, the majority of Canadians love that system.
Do you think they would choose to go to a private healthcare system?
I don't think they choose to go back.
All right. So I think we are done with these. Well, I think we're done with the subject of healthcare as of now. I don't know if it gets back into. I can't remember at this point. But I believe now we're going to get into immigration. So, of course, the subject of immigration came up, undocumented immigrants, the border, all of that. And so the clip that we have for you is Julian Castro and Biden in this clip. And Castro is challenging Biden, actually pointing to history, and you'll see what he says.
Secretary Castro, you think it should no longer be a crime to cross the U.S. border illegally. President Obama's Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson, whom you served with, says that is a public declaration that the border is, quote, effectively open to all. How is he wrong?
Thank you for that question. If you elect me president, you're not electing me to follow. You're electing me to lead. And open borders is a right-wing talking point. And frankly, I'm disappointed that some folks, including some folks on this stage, have taken the bait. The only way that we're going to guarantee that we don't have family separations in this country again
is to repeal Section 1325 of the Immigration and Nationality Act. That is the law that this president, this administration is using to incarcerate migrant parents and then physically separate them from their children. My immigration plan would also make sure that we put undocumented immigrants who haven't committed a serious crime on a pathway to citizenship, that we do a 21st century Marshall Plan with Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala, so that we can get to the root of this challenge, so people can find safety and opportunity at home instead of having to come to the United States. That's how we can be smarter, more effective, and more humane when it comes to immigration policy.
Thank you, Secretary.
With regard to the Secretary's point, I already proposed and passed $750 million for Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras to be able to change the circumstance why people fled in the first place. In addition to that, we're in a circumstance where if, in fact, you say you can just cross the border, what do you say to all those people around the world who, in fact, want the same thing to come to the United States and make their case, but they don't, that they have to wait in line? The fact of the matter is, you should be able to, if you cross the border illegally, you should be able to be sent back. It's a crime. It's a crime, and it's not one that, in fact...
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Secretary Castro, please, your response.
First of all, Mr. Vice President, it looks like one of us has learned the lessons of the past and one of us hasn't. Let me begin by telling you... Let me just start out by answering that question. My immigration plan would also fix the broken legal immigration system, because we do have a problem with that. Secondly, the only way that we're going to guarantee that these kinds of family separations don't happen in the future is that we need to repeal this law. There's still going to be consequences if somebody crosses the border. It's a civil action. Also, we have 654 miles of fencing. We have thousands of personnel at the border. We have planes, we have boats, we have helicopters, we have security cameras.
Castro,
what we need are politicians that actually have some guts on this issue.
Thank you, sir.
You can tell when somebody, gets punched in the gut, rhetorically, obviously. You can tell just by how they react, and Julian Castro won that. Not just based on what he said, but based on Biden's reaction. He's like, you saw that? Like, you don't react if, somebody to make a good point. And I do like the fact that Julian Castro brought up, how Democrats take the bait from Republicans. Because usually how Democrats respond is, we care about the border. Because open borders talk about we're tough. We want to secure the border too. Like, you don't have to go there when it comes to defending yourself on that stupid talking point. You go exactly where Julian Castro said we should go, and that's like kind of reconstructing or just making better or reinforcing, better yet, our legal immigration laws. You don't go to this. We're going to secure the borders. We're going to secure the borders with more cameras, drones, and all this. All that does is just lead to situations like we see now with the Trump administration. That's all that's going to lead to.
I mean, I definitely agree with Julian Castro. We need to repeal that section of the law because, again, it has given Donald Trump the authority to treat this as a crime, border crossings as a crime, which it wasn't treated like that before. It was a civil matter. So when it's thrown at you that, the Democratic Party, party of open borders, they don't care about it. No, they do care about it. They have appropriated money for barriers, border protection agents. We've seen this all throughout the years. They're really no different than Republicans, but they don't have the same rhetoric as Republicans. They don't have the same fear-mongering tactic as Republicans. We need to repeal that law or that section of the law that Julian Castro is talking about, not just for Trump, but because of after Trump as well. If a Democratic candidate does get into office in 2021, the chance of another Republican becoming president is likely. I mean, it's very possible at least.
No. It's possible.
Yeah. So if if a Republican has the same type of mind frame as Donald Trump, which we know they have the same type of agenda, then they can use the same law and initiate the same type of things that we're seeing at the border right now in separating families.
That law,
so
yeah.
That is exactly. That's why you need to change that law, repeal that law. You can still deal with it like it was dealt with before. If you don't have, like, Biden's contention is that what we need to do is beat Trump, and one of us are surely not going to treat it the same way. We're not going to be separating families. So why do you need that section of the law then?
And that's that law is being used to justify separating families because they're treating it like any other crime,
right?
Not a civil offense. You don't separate families when I don't know, when the guardian gets a speeding ticket,
exactly,
or jaywalks. You know what I'm saying? You don't do that. So
yeah, I think Julian Castro won that one. And I liked how he pointed to a 21st century Marshall Plan for the South American countries as well, so that they feel that they can stay home because they feel that they are safe and there's opportunity there. So again, that was a great point by him. So now we're going to get to Governor Jay Inslee, governor of Washington, Jay Inslee. And this is about the subject of immigration too, but he definitely attacks Trump on this.
I think we're missing two central statements we need to make. Number one, we can no longer allow a white nationalist to be in the White House, number one. And number two, we have to make America what it's always been, a place of refuge. We got to boost the number of people we accept. I'm proud of being the first governor saying, send us your Syrian refugees. I'm proud to have been the first governor to stand up against Donald Trump's Muslim ban. I'm proud to have sued him 21 times and beat him 21 times in a row. I'm ready for November 2020.
What'd you think?
Telling it like it is?
I would say he told it like it is from the jump, and called Donald Trump what he is, and that's
a white nationalist.
Yeah, a white identitarian.
Right. A lot of people have said he's racist, and I think that's just standard at this point.
But that doesn't completely capture him and his agenda and the Republicans.
That's true.
And something that to us, at least, it's not been something that's hidden, obscure. This is always what they've been about. Just listen to what they have to say. Just listen to them. Yeah. It's not very hard. So I'm glad, Inslee came out. You know who he reminds me of?
Who?
Clark Kent. With them glasses.
With the glasses.
And he's kind of built too.
I can see that.
Kind of built too, man.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, man.
You made a comment about how you felt he was genuine. Maybe remember last night?
Yeah, just like it may be.
We don't know the guy personally.
Maybe that's easier on that stage. It's easier to look genuine on that stage. Right. It's easier to look genuine when you're surrounded by the people he's surrounded by.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying?
But yeah, I don't have a problem with Jay Inslee. I mean, there might be some issues, and of all the candidates, he's probably one of them that I'm least familiar with. Being a governor of Washington, of course, that's on the West Coast, Northwest. Don't hear too much about him, but he's definitely strong on climate change. That's his go-to.
Rated A, right? Yeah, he got an A+, right?
Yeah, from Greenpeace.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. We're gonna get to that as well. But I love the way he called it. Called it exactly right. Trump is a white nationalist. Yeah, terrific, man. All right. So I think on this clip, we're gonna have Bill de Blasio, and we're also going to have. This is the one. Yeah. So we're gonna have Bill de Blasio, Joe Biden, and Booker all in this clip, and this is on the subject of immigration and deportations. So Bill de Blasio challenges Joe Biden on the Obama era deportations.
Vice President Biden, I didn't hear your response when the issue came up of all those deportations. You were Vice President of the United States. I didn't hear whether you tried to stop them or not using your power, your influence in the White House. Did you think it was a good idea, or do you think it was something that needed to be stopped?
The president came along, and he's the guy that came up with the idea, first time ever, of dealing with the Dreamers. He put that in the law. He talked about a comprehensive plan, which he laid before the Congress, saying that we should find a pathway to citizenship for people. He said we should up the number of people that we're able to bring into this country. Lastly, he also pointed out that we should go to the source of the problem and fix it where people were leaving in the first place. So he did. To compare him to Donald Trump, I think, is absolutely bizarre.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President.
But I don't hear an answer from the Vice President. I'm confused. I asked the Vice President point blank, did he use his power to stop those deportations? He went right around the question. Mr. Vice President, you want to be President of the United States. You need to be able to answer the tough questions. I guarantee you, if you're debating Donald Trump, he's not going to let you off the hook. So did you say those deportations were a good idea? Or did you go to the president and say, this is a mistake, we shouldn't do it? Which one?
I was vice president. I am not the president. I keep my recommendation to him in private. Unlike you, I expect you would go ahead and say whatever was said privately with him. That's not what I do. What I do say to you is he moved to fundamentally change the system. That's what he did. That's what he did. But much more has to be done. Much more has to be done.
I still don't hear an answer.
Senator Booker, please respond.
Well, a couple things. First of all, Mr. Vice President, you can't have it both ways. You invoke President Obama more than anybody in this campaign. You can't do it when it's convenient and then dodge it when it's not. And the second thing, and this really irks me because I heard the Vice President say that, if you got a PhD, you can come right into this country. Well, that's playing into what the Republicans want, to pit some immigrants against other immigrants. Some are from shithole countries and some are from worthy countries. We need to reform this whole immigration system and begin to be the country that says everyone has worth and dignity, and this should be a country that honors for everyone. Don't let the Republicans divide this party against itself.
This was one of the lowest moments of the debate for Joe Biden. This was one of the lowest moments of the debate.
Yeah.
Bill de Blasio challenged him. Said, what about those Obama-era deportations? You remember Obama was referred to as the deporter in chief. More deportations than the previous president, George W. Bush.
He didn't use that title, but that's essentially what that question surrounded.
Yes, and then also since Trump has been president, I believe in his tenure, his first 2 years, he has less deportations than Obama did in his first 2 years as well. So what did you do, former VP Joe Biden? What did you do? Did you at least go to Obama and said, either I'm with you or no, we shouldn't be doing this?
Use his power to adjust Obama's strategy.
His power. Biden did not answer the question, so what did de Blasio do? De Blasio came back and was like, hold on, you still didn't answer the question.
That's like real time. That's exactly what we were saying before de Blasio said. He was like, okay, he's talking. But
and we cut it. So it went to somebody else. I think it went to Tulsi Gabbard. I can't remember who it went to. But then it came back to de Blasio and was like, hold on, I'm still going to go at Joe Biden because he did not answer the question. So will you answer the question now? Still didn't answer the question. And then I have to say, I absolutely love what Cory Booker said. Because he's absolutely right about what Joe Biden always does. He always invokes Barack Obama. Always tries to bear hug everything that Barack Obama was.
And not just invoking his name. What else does he do?
He tries to say that Obama empowered him to make so many decisions. It's always like it was a us presidency. We did this.
And I did this.
Yes.
So what do we call that? I did this.
Oh, wait, where you going?
Mr. Biggs. Oh. I did this. I did this to you.
I did this to you. That's right.
Mr. Biggs. So, yeah, he doesn't just invoke Obama's name.
Right.
He kind of inflates how much power he had.
Right.
And how much influence he had over that administration.
He takes credit for a lot of it.
Yeah, during that administration, he takes credit for a lot of it. He's like, we did this. Yeah. I did this. Now, that's, I guess, in reference to Obama's successes. Mm-hmm. But in this instance, de Blasio is trying to highlight Obama's failures. Mm-hmm. And what does he do?
He said, well, Obama was the president.
Hey, I was just the VP. I was just the VP.
Hands off. It wasn't my decision. You can't have it. And that's exactly what Cory Booker said. You can't have it both ways. If you're going to invoke President Obama so many times, if you're going to bear hug the whole entire administration and say that how you were so instrumental in getting things done and you were empowered and you had so much power. You actually did things, not Obama. You did so many things. And he has said this on the debate stage before.
On the debate stage.
But when it comes down to something that is viewed as a failure, wasn't me. That was that black dude. That was that black dude, man. It wasn't me.
It wasn't me. It wasn't me.
You know what I'm saying? Shaggy.
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 That mug is like turned
That's
into
me.
Shaggy, man.
Man, that was a truly weak moment for Joe Biden. Truly weak.
One of the weak moments.
Yes.
One of the many.
One.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to go to I think this next one. I think we're done with the subject of immigration now, I believe. Yes. So here we get to criminal justice.
Oh yeah, this is
All
where
right.
there was some fireworks.
There was some fireworks here. Okay. So this was probably this is probably the most talked about portion of the debate last night, and Joe Biden and Cory Booker kind of kept going back at one another on this issue, criminal justice. And Biden did show a little bit of fight, you know, and he actually pointed to Cory Booker's time as mayor of Newark and some question marks on his record. So this video is, this is the longest video that we have. I couldn't cut it any less than this. So it's approximately 4 minutes long.
Missing a lot of context. If
It's
you
a
cut
lot of
anything.
context. But then, after this, we'll definitely come back and discuss it.
Senator Booker called your new criminal justice reform plan, quote, an inadequate solution to what is a raging crisis in our country, unquote. Why is Senator Booker wrong?
Well, I think he is wrong. I think we should work together. He has a similar plan. I think that we should change the way we look at prisons. Right now, we're in a situation where when someone is convicted of a drug crime, they end up going to jail and to prison. They should be going to rehabilitation. They shouldn't be going to prison. When in prison, they should be learning to read and write and not just sit in there and learn how to be better criminals. That when they get out of prison, they should be in a situation where they have access to everything they would have had before, including Pell Grants for education, including making sure that they're able to have housing, public housing, including they have all the opportunities that were available to them because we want them to become better citizens.
Mr. Vice President has said that since the 1970s, every crime bill, major and minor, has had his name on it. And sir, those are your words, not mine. And this is one of those instances where the House was set on fire and you claimed responsibility for those laws. And you can't just now come out with a plan to put out that fire. We have got to have far more bold action on criminal justice reform, like having true marijuana justice, which means that we legalize it on a federal level and reinvest the profits in communities that have been disproportionately targeted by marijuana enforcement.
Vice President Biden, I want to give you a chance to respond.
The fact is that the bills that the future president here, that the senator is talking about are bills that were passed years ago and they were passed overwhelmingly. Since 2007, I, for example, tried to get the crack powder cocaine disparity totally eliminated. In 2007, you became mayor. And you had a police department you went out and you hired Rudy Giuliani's guy. You engaged in stop and frisk. You had 75% of those stops reviewed as illegal. You found yourself in the situation where 3 times as many African-American kids were caught in that chain and caught up. The Justice Department came after you for saying you were engaging in behavior that was inappropriate. And then, in fact, nothing happened the entire time you were mayor.
It's no secret that I inherited a police department with massive problems and decades-long challenges. But the head of the ACLU has already said, the head of the New Jersey ACLU, that I put forth national standard-setting accountability. Mr. Vice President, I didn't interrupt you. Please show me that respect, sir. We have a system right now that's broken. And if you want to compare records, and frankly, I'm shocked that you do, I am happy to do that. Because all of the problems that he is talking about that he created, I actually led the bill that got passed into law that reverses the damage that your bills that you were, frankly, to correct you, Mr. Vice President, you were bragging, calling it the Biden crime bill up till 2015.
Thank you, Senator.
Trump, why did you announce in the first day a zero tolerance policy of stop and frisk and hire Rudy Giuliani's guy in 2007 when I was trying to get rid of the crack cocaine?
Mr. Vice President, there's a saying in my community, you're dipping into the Kool-Aid and you don't even know the flavor. You need to come to the city of Newark and see the reforms that we put in place. The New Jersey head of the ACLU has said that I embraced reforms, not just in action, but in deed. Sir, you are trying to shift the view from what you created. There are people right now in prison for life for drug offenses because you stood up and used that tough on crime, phony rhetoric that got a lot of people elected, but destroyed communities like mine.
This was the main battle of the pointing Spider-Mans I was talking about. Spider-Men.
Right.
Where do you want to begin with this one?
Well, look, it definitely looked like Biden took an L on this one. It definitely looked like that. And, Cory Booker definitely had, more of those moments in just this exchange. He pointed to the record of Joe Biden, which we all know at this point. We definitely know the record of Joe Biden, which we have discussed many times. We've also talked critically about his new criminal justice reform plan, which is, is like, okay, yeah, there's some good things in there. I won't dismiss everything, but definitely what Cory Booker is saying about marijuana legalization, that's definitely not in there.
Yeah, because it doesn't complete, I guess, the plan in a very significant way.
Yeah.
If you're actually looking to reform the system, then you wouldn't just kind of deal with those who have been convicted of marijuana in any kind of way.
Right.
Because
you look to the future, too.
You look to the future. So I think in Biden's bill, I think it features individuals who've been convicted of any kind of crime involving marijuana for their sentence to be commuted in some way.
I think expunged.
Expunged, yeah. Their records expunged, and pretty much they get out.
Right.
But then it doesn't go to, I guess, to me, it doesn't go in the logical direction. It doesn't go far enough, especially when we're talking about marijuana crimes being prosecuted. And he's just throwing his hands up on that. Yeah. He's basically going to leave it up to the states.
That's right.
And I'm like, so they can still be arrested?
Yeah.
It
doesn't make sense.
It doesn't even make sense.
So you're rectifying it, but people will still be locked up.
Yeah. Cory Booker was making a good point there. Now, I don't like Booker's talking point about Biden not having the grounds to extinguish a fire he started.
Right.
That's not a good talking point.
Even if you were definitely in the wrong.
Even if
we
you're
know
definitely
that he is in the wrong.
Oh, yes.
If he's putting forth a good plan, have at it.
If he's putting forth
if it's a good plan.
If it was a good plan.
That's all we're interested in.
But I don't like Biden's defense either, I guess, as some sort of counter agent to Booker's talking point, saying it was a long time ago.
Right.
I was like, what? I was like, you didn't defend. That's not defending it. You're saying, well, it was a long time ago. I was like, yeah, those effects last a long time.
And people are still feeling that.
So.
Now, the other portion of this to talk about is Biden's attack. So what Biden was actually talking about is actually true.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that Biden doesn't seem that he knew all the information to drive home the point. Because what he was really talking about was when Cory Booker was the mayor of Newark in 2007. I believe he was elected in 2006, took office in 2007. There was a call by he was sued by the ACLU, and that was because of police misconduct, police abuse, and it seemed as though Cory Booker really he escaped injury in this debate with Joe Biden because again Biden didn't have all of the facts necessary to drive home that point.
He had the point, but he didn't have
I guess it really is that he got all this information from his campaign team, but he didn't get everything. He didn't learn everything. So again, Booker is really, he's painting this really nice, pretty picture about how the ACLU commended him and commended his city for doing the right thing. It was like a standard bearer. They were using his city as like a model.
And while he welcomed them in.
Yes. Now see, this is now that part. that part's not really that true. But the ACLU commending him, yes, that's actually true. But the when that happened, that's like you have to get to the details. So after the debate, in the post debate conversation, John King from CNN, he talked to Cory Booker. After the debate, they had that like little panel, and so they got to the heart of the issue. And John King he challenged him on the issue and got to Cory Booker was still trying to be evasive here, but I think it's going to be clear to see why Cory Booker should be criticized on this.
They had sued you, though. I mean, the ACLU had
absolutely.
sued.
You know why? Because when we came in, we announced that this was an issue we were going to deal with. And we started dealing with it. The ACLU's problem wasn't that we didn't share a goal. They just didn't think we were moving fast enough. And you know what? They were right. And so we came together and ended up partnering to create what I discussed there, which I'm really proud of, which is national standard-setting transparency measures that we took on. The reforms we did in the Newark Police Department, from starting the efforts to get a police civilian review board. I mean, there's so much good stuff that we did.
Do you stand by everything you did with the police department?
I not only stand by the thing, I already said I wish we moved faster, but we inherited a very bad situation during a very difficult time, a national recession, rising crime. We actually started out by announcing we were going to take on this issue of dealing with the police accountability issues. And so I'm very proud of the progress we made.
I want to go through the timeline here because I think, forgive me, you're painting a slightly overly rosy picture of how it played out. But correct me if I'm wrong. Let's go through. You become mayor in 2006. In 2010, the ACLU files a 96-page complaint against the Newark Police Department. So you've been mayor for 4 years. 3 years later, you're right. They do commend you after an investigation, after the Justice Department get involved. But at the beginning, it was more contentious, was it not? I know you say you inherited a corrupt police department. I take you at your word. But at this point, you're mayor for 4 years. The ACLU is not coming to you saying, hey, buddy. They were coming to you saying we have a problem, Mr.
Well, let's go through the timeline. I take over at a time, and you know this, I mean no disrespect to former leaders of my city, but every leader before me going back to the 1950s was indicted and convicted of things. So we were taking over a city with a massive reform agenda in the middle of a national recession. And we did announce right away that we were making reforms with the ACLU at the table. Our difference was the speed at which we moved. And so when they first brought up this issue, hey, we're going to file this complaint federally because we think we need more federal transparency, I was ticked off. But literally, as soon as I sat down with the leader of the Justice Department, he said, Cory, this is free consulting for you to get to the same ends. We leaned into it. We didn't wait till the report even came out. We actually started working with the Justice Department right away, making changes years before the report would even come out. This was a partnership from the beginning. We had a disagreement on tactics and speed, but actually I'm really proud of the achievements we made while we were.
So see, the devil is in the details, okay? He's painting this as some glorious partnership, and he says that it was a partnership from the beginning. No, it wasn't, because he contradicted his own self with his own commentary. He said that the ACLU, he had to admit that they did file a lawsuit against him because of the police misconduct. And that happened some 7 years after, actually, no, it happened after he had been mayor for about 3 or 4 years. It wasn't until another 3 or 4 years after that, probably about a total of 7 years, where the ACLU commended the city for doing the right thing. But to say that it was a partnership from the beginning, he said that when they filed the lawsuit, he initially was opposed to it, but then he got the advice like, hey, this is free legal advice, this is help, this is support, you should take it. So that's when he was like, yeah, okay, yeah, we'll accept it, I guess. We'll be a tandem on this. The problem was with the speed at which he was moving to clean up the city, not clean up the city, but clean up the police department. That's really important. If the ACLU is saying that you're not moving fast enough, people's lives are being impacted, negatively impacted by a corrupt police force in your city, and it's taking you 7 years to move on it, that's a problem. That's not a rosy picture like he's trying to paint. But Biden didn't have those details, apparently.
Well, one thing that I'm grateful for is these post-debate interviews.
Yeah.
And it didn't just happen with Booker.
Yeah.
It happened with a lot of candidates. Whereas like, hey, pretty much they didn't say this. They didn't say it as much, but the hosts and those doing post-debate commentary were not satisfied with the answers that these candidates gave on stage. At that stage, the answers didn't go far enough. The answers were not explanatory. So it was like, hey, we got to hold these people accountable. And I was like, I'm just kind of surprised that that was happening. But
it happened with Chris Wallace and Beto O'Rourke in the first debate.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
But why would he initially stiff-arm support of the ACLU if indeed he came into this job when there were already a lot of problems? He said that himself. He said he came into this job and they were just, I came into a bunch of problems. You're admitting that. You're admitting that there were already problems. Why would you stiff-arm help from the ACLU?
Why would you?
And I guess, the ACLU is trying to help mitigate or eliminate these problems. Why would you stiff-arm them if you know that these problems exist, when you came in? Even if you're not, blaming yourself, you know they exist.
Because of course you came into the problem. But he's talking out of both sides of his mouth saying that he's opposed to their help, but it was a tandem from the beginning. It was a partnership from the beginning.
Yeah, he did. He definitely contradicted himself. And why do people contradict themselves? Usually, when does that happen?
When they're guilty. When they're guilty. When they gotta hide something.
Now
that's usually when it happens.
You did address the whole. He said, "I wish I would have handled it faster."
Yeah.
How long does it take to address these situations?
They came at you about 4 years into your service as mayor.
After the debate, we were watching this, and while Cory Booker was giving his explanation, you brought up an example to me.
Oh, I kind of forgot about it until now.
I didn't forget.
I brought up the isn't the new DA in Philly?
Yeah.
Larry Krasner.
Yeah.
Larry Krasner.
Progressive. How long did it take him to get the chopping?
It was I think it was like that first week. He cut off the necks of some prosecutors that wasn't that wasn't in to his agenda, that wasn't liking his new agenda.
Like the first week. The first week, he was like, "Yeah, y'all gone in 30 days," and just letting y'all know, just like that. So,
should it take 3 to 4 years for you to clean up the police department? For you to do any? It had to be enough of an issue for the ACLU to file a lawsuit against you. It had to be enough of an issue, and that's where the criticism comes from. It took you so long to do something. Nobody's blaming you for inheriting a police department that was corrupt. Nobody wants to blame. I wouldn't blame you. If anybody blames you for that, they're crazy. But if it took you years to actually move on it, if it took the ACLU to push you on doing it, and then you opposed them at first, but then you was like, okay, yeah, we'll do it. And then after 3 years after that, the ACLU commended you and your city for doing the right thing and being a role model. All you're taking away from the situation is that the ACLU condemned my city. And you're forgetting the rest of the 7 years.
Man. So what you're saying is Biden dropped the ball.
He completely
Because
ball.
how many people saw this post-debate interview?
Exactly. And this is not readily accessible on social media or on YouTube, the internet.
The one,
it's not.
The one that is available as far as debate coverage, you know how long that shit is?
Oh gosh, yeah.
Because it actually covers commentary leading up to the debate and after debate. So you look at that video, it's because it's I don't know if it's NBC or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure if it was on CNN's.
Well, this was on CNN.
No, I'm talking about YouTube page.
Oh, the YouTube. Okay,
yeah, the actual YouTube page. I didn't even look at CNN's YouTube page, but I think it was on NBC News's YouTube page, and theirs was 5 hours. Nobody's sitting through that.
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah, it was all.
There
like,
might be a shorter. There
pre
might
and post
pre and post. There
coverage.
might be a shorter version out there, but like the first version that came up when I typed it in, 5 hours long. Ain't nobody watching that.
And did other networks, when Cory Booker was, sitting down with them, did this come up? You can only watch one station. You can only want to watch one station at a time. A lot of people did not get this. So this was Biden's opportunity to actually drive home the point that, yeah, maybe I got to check or pass on this issue of criminal justice, but so do you. But he didn't get it done.
This was just one of those finger pointing moments, which happened a lot during these debates. I think this is one.
But Biden takes the L though.
I was about to say,
Biden takes
that's
the
like
L, though.
now, like overall, just looking at all the facts, they both take an L.
Yeah.
But just the
On that
optics,
stage,
the
yeah.
optics of what happened on that stage and that engagement. Yeah, Biden took. Biden.
You always do that, huh?
Why do I always? That's his fault. That's Biden's fault because he's always like tying himself to Obama.
All right, let's move on. Let's move on. We got a lot more to cover, right? All right, so yeah, we're staying on the issue of criminal justice, and I believe we're gonna get to. Let me find it here. Yeah, we're gonna get to Julian Castro, and Bill De Blasio talking about this as well. And I think Bill De Blasio challenges. Bill De Blasio issues another challenge to former VP Joe Biden once again. And I think you're going to notice that Joe Biden doesn't answer the question yet again.
I agree with Senator Booker that a lot of what Vice President helped author in '94 was a mistake. And he has flip-flopped on these things, and that's clear. But let me say, when we talk about criminal justice reform, there are a lot of things that we can talk about: sentencing reform, cash bail reform, investing in public defenders, diversion programs. I'm proud that I'm the only candidate that has put forward a police reform plan, because we have a police system that is broken, and we need to fix it. And whether it's the case of someone like Tamir Rice or Michael Brown or Eric Garner, where the Trump Justice Department just decided not to pursue charges, we need to ensure we have a national use of force standard and that we end qualified immunity for police officers so that we can hold them accountable for using excessive force.
I know the Garner family. They've gone through extraordinary pain. They are waiting for justice, and they're going to get justice. There's finally going to be justice. I have confidence in that. In the next 30 days in New York. You know why? Because for the first time, we are not waiting on the federal Justice Department, which told the city of New York that we could not proceed because the Justice Department was pursuing their prosecution. And years went by, and a lot of pain accrued. And in the meantime, what I'm working on is making sure, and I have for 5 years, there will never be another tragedy. There will never be another Eric Garner, because we're changing fundamentally how we police.
Thank you, Mayor.
But there's one last point I have to say about the Justice Department. The Vice President, for 2.5 of those years, Mr. Vice President, tell us, what did you do to try and spur on the Justice Department to act in the Garner case?
Thank you, Mayor de Blasio. Vice President Biden, you can respond to that.
We did a lot. Number one, we made sure we reduced the federal prison population by 38,000 people. Number one. Number two, we in fact insisted that we change the rules that police engage in. We provided for body cameras. We made sure that there were a lot of things that were changed in the process, but 38,000 people in the federal system were released under the system. And so the fact is that there's a lot we've done, but here's the deal. The fact is that we're talking about things that occurred a long, long time ago. And now all of a sudden, you know, I find it fascinating. Everybody's talking about how terrible I am on these issues. Barack Obama knew exactly who I was. He had 10 lawyers do a background check on everything about me on civil rights and civil liberties, and he chose me, and he said it was the best decision he made.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
I'll take his judgment.
Can you fill in the blank for me, Will? Fill in this blank.
All right.
I was good enough for Obama. Therefore,
I'm good enough for you. I'm good enough to become the next president of the United States.
That was a horrible way to end his little, his defending himself.
He said, I'll take that judgment.
I'll take that judgment.
Obama's judgment. Obama picked me. Obama saw value in me. So
you can't question us. You can't question me.
Nothing more to discuss here.
Like, so there can't be any flaws in me, because this black guy picked me. Because that's essentially what he's saying. He didn't say it as much, but when you mention civil rights, you know exactly what he's doing. You know exactly what he's doing.
That was a horrible answer.
That was a bad answer. I mean,
look, I appreciate what Julian Castro was saying, and I appreciate that he brought up Eric Garner. Definitely. Bill de Blasio, mayor of New York City. Of course, he had to be involved in this conversation. And he said something that I had never heard before. He said, now, of course, recently it was revealed that the DOJ, the United States DOJ, was not going to criminally prosecute Officer Daniel Pantaleo, who was the one that issued that illegal chokehold on Eric Garner and killed him. So I had not heard this yet, but Bill de Blasio said that justice was going to be had within 30 days. And the reason why it was impossible before concerning the state of New York is because they had to wait on the federal government to decide whether they were going to prosecute or not. Now, I have heard that before. I've read that before.
I have too.
I don't know how accurate it is. I don't know why that is the case. Look, we're not involved in the legal profession. We don't have any contact within the DOJ or anything like that. So I just have to take him on his word that that's accurate.
But why would the Justice Department have to get involved in the first place?
Usually the federal government, not usually, but there are times when states do not act and then the federal government comes in.
Especially if it's getting a lot of attention.
Of course.
It's just weird, that that's what, he's defending himself with. He was hamstrung. His hands were tied. I was waiting on the Department of Justice.
If it's true that they could not act until the federal government decided that, finally, no, we're not going to go after him, then I guess we're going to see within the next 30 days what happens with Officer Daniel Pantaleo. Yeah. Or if that was just rhetoric.
If that was just a strategy to get out of that moment. We'll see. Because whenever the next debate comes and he's still there.
Yeah. I think he should probably have to answer for that. Because the next debate is in September. That's over a month away.
And not only that, the subject matter that came up in this debate and was kind of talked about in this little engagement here, the damn protests.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, at least once or twice during this debate.
What were they chanting?
I think it was Fire Pantaleo.
Okay.
Yeah, they did it right at the end too. When Cory Booker was making his opening statement, you could hear I couldn't make it out at first while we were watching it. I didn't know what the heck they were saying. I didn't know if it was like against Cory Booker, pro Cory Booker, if it was something that was unrelated. But after the fact, it came out that it was a Fire Pantaleo.
So it's not going away. So
no, it's not going away. All right, so we're going to stay with criminal justice, and we're going to go to Tulsi Gabbard and Kamala Harris. And Tulsi Gabbard, she challenges Kamala Harris yet again.
I think a lot of people saw that.
Yeah.
Congresswoman Gabbard, you took issue with Senator Harris confronting Vice President Biden at the last debate. You called it a, quote, false accusation that Joe Biden is a racist. What's your response?
I want to bring the conversation back to the broken criminal justice system that is disproportionately negatively impacting black and brown people all across this country today. Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. That would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Senator Harris, your response.
As the elected Attorney General of California, I did the work of significantly reforming the criminal justice system of a state of 40 million people, which became a national model for the work that needs to be done. And I am proud of that work. And I am proud of making a decision to not just give fancy speeches or be in a legislative body and give speeches on the floor, but actually doing the work of being in the position to use the power that I had to reform a system that is badly in need of reform. That is why we created initiatives that were about reentering former offenders and getting them counseling. It is why, and because I know that criminal justice system is so broken, that I am an advocate for what we need to do to not only decriminalize, but legalize marijuana in the United States.
I want to bring Congresswoman Gabbard back in. Your response,
The bottom line is, Senator Harris, when you are in a position to make a difference and an impact in these people's lives, you did not. And worse yet, in the case of those who are on death row, innocent people, you actually blocked evidence from being revealed that would have freed them until you were forced to do so. There is no excuse for that. And the people who suffered under your reign as prosecutor, you owe them an apology.
Senator Harris.
My entire career, I have been personally opposed to the death penalty, and that has never changed. And I dare anybody who is in a position to make that decision, to face the people I have faced, to say, I will not seek the death penalty.
Not surprising. Not surprising that, Tulsi Gabbard, made the choice to go after Kamala Harris. We saw this coming because we talked about how she went after her in that interview with Fox Sports. We talked about that, I believe that was last week.
But she didn't mention anything about criminal justice.
No, she did not. She just talked about how Kamala Harris was not qualified to become the next commander-in-chief, and that was about foreign policy.
Based on
she
her
had no qualification. She was inexperienced, had no experience whatsoever. This was, it was a new attack for Tulsi Gabbard, but some of these things, we have already talked about, and we have already heard. This, I would definitely throw a W up in the column for Tulsi Gabbard. I think she did come off very well, and she spoke the truth. So that's the thing that you can't you can't lose that in this argument. Tulsi Gabbard actually spoke the truth. Kamala Harris, when she was a prosecutor, she did lock up thousands of individuals for marijuana possession. But she was on the Breakfast Club, pretty much right at the start of her candidacy for president, joking and laughing about how she was in college and smoking weed while listening to Tupac and Snoop, even though they weren't around when she was in college.
But see, where she know where she's at. She's trying to do it up.
Yeah.
She's trying to do up her blackness.
Yeah.
She knows what platform she's talking on, and she knows who she's being interviewed by.
But that definitely does look sinister.
It's more about the optics.
Yeah.
We would still have something to say because of her policies.
Yeah.
And how she approached drug prosecutions. But it just looks much worse when you're going on a very popular show and just yucking it up about you
having
smoking.
a big hearty laugh.
You don't have to do that.
No.
You don't have to do that. And it's about optics. So, when you're asked a question, just say what? It's wasn't
for me.
Wasn't for me. It's not my thing.
Yep.
And just move on. It's like, it wasn't for me, not my thing. I knew some people who did it, and I had some friends who did it, but it wasn't my thing, and moved on.
Yep.
And move on. But I'm glad she added that part in. You know what I'm saying? Because it does point to hypocrisy, and it points to a level of privilege that we have to highlight.
Yeah.
Because she was in a privileged position to not be held accountable for her own marijuana use, but she was in a privileged position to hold other people accountable for theirs.
No doubt. Some of the other things that Tulsi Gabbard was talking about too, holding inmates in jail so that they could perform, work for cheap labor. I believe we had talked about that at least one other time. This was months ago. And Kamala Harris, believe it or not, this is her contention though, she didn't know anything about it. When I think it was about 2 months after, she said that she didn't know anything about it because it was lawyers for her that actually made that argument. And when she found out about it, she wanted that retracted. She wasn't supportive of that. So look, choose the believer, choose the not believer. That's the story there. So, It was her. It was her lawyers. You'd have to say that. And so, of course, she deserves some criticism. On the subject of the death penalty now that's something that I think she can get criticized for, even though she maintains that she has always personally been opposed to the death penalty.
We don't care about personally.
No, you were the Attorney General of California,
What?
and you didn't prosecute cases where you went forward with the death penalty.
Because that's what she said, right?
Yes, you didn't personally seek the death penalty
in the cases that she prosecuted, but she was Attorney General.
Right.
You preside over all.
There are a lot of prosecutors in California.
Yeah, you don't preside. She's supposed to preside over.
Yep.
The justice system in California.
And there are many other prosecutors that did choose to go forward with the death penalty.
And
she
has authority.
Did this.
She has authority over them.
She did this.
Just like how she has the authority to prosecute marijuana crimes.
Right. So yeah.
She exercised that authority.
She would not go forward with it, but others did, and she did not object.
Hands off.
That's the record. Own it. That's the record.
And she's essentially applying for a job where she is the leader of the country.
Yep.
So, that doesn't fly. She never addressed anything that Tulsi brought up. Really.
No, not really.
She never really addressed it. Especially the marijuana thing. She didn't touch it.
She
tried to address the death penalty thing, which was insufficient, but she didn't touch that.
Oh, you don't want to touch
question.
that because there is no justification for what you did and what you said, and there's no justification. All right, so let's now go to, I think we're going to go to Andrew Yang now, and I believe, yes, okay, so he kind of got a different question, still around the issue of criminal justice, but his question was about why he is the best candidate to heal the racial divide, and this is Yang's answer.
Mr. Yang, why are you the best candidate to heal the racial divide in America? Your response.
I spent 7 years running a nonprofit that helped create thousands of jobs, including hundreds right here in Detroit, as well as Baltimore, Cleveland, New Orleans. And I saw that the racial disparities are much, much worse than I'd ever imagined. They're even worse still. A study just came out that projected the average African-American median net worth will be 0 by 2053. So you have to ask yourself, how is that possible? It's possible because we're in the midst of the greatest economic transformation in our history. Artificial intelligence is coming. It's going to displace hundreds of thousands of call center workers. Truck drivers, the most common job in 29 states, including this one. And you know who suffers most in a natural disaster? It's people of color, people who have lower levels of capital and education and resources. So what are we going to do about it? We should just go back to the writings of Martin Luther King, who in 1967, his book Chaos or Community, said we need a guaranteed minimum income in the United States of America. That is the most effective way for us to address racial inequality in a genuine way and give every American a chance in the 21st century economy.
I'm left feeling empty with that answer. It seems as if kind of his baby, his platform, like I guess the beacon. I guess what represents the beacon of his platform is, the $1,000 stipend.
Yeah,
that is Yang's baby, and that seems to be his go-to. That's his answer for everything. Like, how do you heal the racial divide? $1,000 stipend. How do you heal the gender gap and the gender divide? $1,000 stipend. In the first debate. Climate change. $1,000 stipend. Like
and
that.
We still don't understand that.
Yeah, we don't understand that. That is like the go-to. That just the cover-all for everything. Like, how do you defeat Godzilla? $1,000 stipend. Like it. Apparently, it solves everything.
It's the great solver.
It's the great solver. How you defeat the Demogorgon? $1,000 stipend. It's like that's his answer for everything. And I first of all, the question was specifically targeting a demographic.
Yes.
His stipend doesn't specifically target a demographic, so it's not going to do anything for the racial wealth gap.
That's the key, okay? That's the key. Now, if this stipend, if this universal basic income was only applied to black people, then maybe you could say, yeah, this is really going to help black people. This is going to decrease that racial divide, is going to help heal the nation, is going to economically is going to put Black Americans in a better position because we know they are suffering compared to whites. I'm not opposed, I'm not opposed to, of course, look, I shouldn't even have to say this, but of course, I'm not opposed to doing something about poverty on all levels, affecting all people. Many people are affected by poverty. It does not matter what skin color you are. So I am definitely in favor of addressing poverty for all people. But if you are talking about the racial divide, then it needs to be a targeted approach. What he's talking about is lifting up all boats, which is cool, but you're still going to have a racial divide.
And it's primarily not just, economically based.
Ooh! See.
Something like that it ends up being economically based.
Yes.
But the reason why it's economically based is because of disenfranchisement and discrimination. So you have to address that first. It's like the economic divide is like a consequence. You know what I'm saying? It just didn't happen out of nowhere. It's like, look, these people don't have money, these people don't have wealth, and these people don't. And that's what we got to solve. It's like, nah, you got to kind of go to the source. Is
his stipend going to help discrimination in housing? Is it going to help discrimination in the criminal justice system?
No.
Is it going to help? Is it even going to help the disparity between Black unemployment and white unemployment? Whatever. Is it going to help that? No, it won't. There's a lot of inequality within our society that $1,000 stipend is not going to address.
You know what? Maybe I think I know what he was getting at, because I've seen some of his appearances on some independent media platforms, and I've seen some of his tweets. So maybe he was getting at something else but didn't elaborate. He's said certain things about, I guess, a certain demographic, not non-Black people, specifically racist. Those who classify or identify themselves as like white nationalists or white identitarians, and I guess how economically deprived that they are. How economically deprived they are too. And if they have $1,000 stipend and they're economically secure, then they may not, be consumed with this white nationalism, this white identitarianism, and That's he may have not said that just now, but maybe that's what he was getting at. Now I just say that based on some of the other things he has said. Because that's a talking point, right? Isn't that a talking point? Economic anxiety, isn't that a talking point?
That's why people are racist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know. Maybe he's saying that. Maybe the domestic terrorism that white nationalists account for, the 75%, just go away if they just get some money, man. Maybe that might help the racial wealth gap.
All right. Let's go to climate. All right. So here we're gonna have Governor Jay Inslee from Washington, going after Biden. Middle ground solutions.
Look, these deadlines are set by science. Mr. Vice President, your argument is not with me, it's with science. And unfortunately, your plan is just too late. The science tells us we have to get off coal in 10 years. Yes. Your plan does not do that. We have to have off of fossil fuels in our electrical grid in 15. Your plan simply does not do that. I've heard you say that we need a realistic plan. Here's what I believe.
No, I didn't say that.
Here's what I believe. I believe that survival is realistic, and that's the kind of plan we need, and that's the kind I have.
My plan calls for 500,000 charging stations around the country, so by 2030, we're all electric vehicles. My plan calls for making sure that we have $400 billion invested in technologies to learn how to contain what we're doing, creating 10 million new jobs. We will double offshore wind. We will end any subsidies for coal or any other fossil fuel. But we have to also engage the world while we're doing it. We have to walk and chew gum at the same time.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Just to clarify, would there be any place for fossil fuels, including coal and fracking, in a Biden administration?
No, we would work it out. We would make sure it's eliminated and no more subsidies for either one of those, any fossil fuel.
We cannot work it out. We cannot work this out. The time is up. Our house is on fire. We have to stop using coal in 10 years. And we need a president to do it or it won't get done. Get off coal. Save this country and the planet. That's what I'm for.
Clark Kent making another appearance. He just looks stronger. Sorry, like Inslee just looks stronger. Like Biden looks like he's like tap dancing all the time. He just doesn't look secure.
No.
Like at all.
He talks about phasing out coal, fracking. You know, whenever you say that too, without delivering an end to it, yeah, we're gonna phase it out. It's in the wind. We're gonna phase it out. When we're gonna do that? Oh, we're gonna phase it out.
and Inslee picked up on that.
Yeah, of course he did.
Inslee picked up on that.
You really trust Joe Biden to end it within his term, even? No. All right, so now we're gonna go to Senator Cory Booker about he got the question about a job guarantee in the Green New Deal, if it's realistic or not.
Is the job guarantee in the Green New Deal realistic?
I just want to take, first of all, a step back and say that I agree wholeheartedly with Governor Inslee. It's one of the reasons why Greenpeace ranks me and him at the top of this entire field of their candidates on climate.
Close. Second, but close. You're just close.
I want to say very clearly, thank you, man. Thank you. I'll try harder. Look, the reason why is because, first of all, this problem didn't start yesterday. Science didn't become a reality yesterday. This has been going on for years. There was another president that would not join an international accord. Then it was the Kyoto Accords. I was mayor then, and I stood up in national leadership, joining with other mayors to say climate change is not a separate issue. It must be the issue and the lens with which we view every issue. Nobody should get applause for rejoining the Paris Climate Accords. That is kindergarten. We have to go to far advance and make sure that everything from our trade deals, everything from the billions of dollars we spend to foreign aid, everything must be sublimated to the challenge and the crisis that is existential, which is dealing with the climate threat. And yes, the majority of this problem is outside the United States. But the only way we're going to deal with this is if the United States leads.
What was the question?
The question was, is it realistic that there's a job guarantee
to the Green New Deal?
The Green New Deal. Is a job guarantee realistic? He didn't answer the question. Now, he did come off very well. He did. I mean, he said a lot of good things. And on the issue of climate change, he is a lot stronger than most candidates, definitely. And he did make the case that he's up at the top in that Greenpeace ranking. But he had to be corrected that he is not at the top.
Yeah. Who was at the top though?
That is Inslee.
He was like, excuse me.
You ain't gonna take top.
You gonna take my trophy away.
No, you're not gonna do that. Not on the debate stage. So yeah, I mean, look, like I said, Cory Booker definitely, he showed well in that he said a lot of positive things. He said the right things, but did he answer the question? No.
No, he didn't. No. I don't know why. Again. So Booker, we talked about his answer in regard to him becoming mayor, not addressing police misconduct, behavior, and whatever, and then contradicting himself, and you pointing to that being a sign that he was guilty. So when you don't answer a direct, simple question, what does that mean?
And this is somebody that supports the Green
So
New
why
Deal.
didn't he want? It just seemed like he didn't want to have a position here. Honestly, I don't even like the question.
Yeah.
That's true. I don't even like the question.
That is true.
Because essentially, even those who are against the Green New Deal but still have some sort of climate change policy or strategy, they are essentially offering something similar, right? Because they're connecting their move towards a better technology, different technology, energy efficient technology, renewable resource technology. they're connecting that to jobs too. If you heard what Biden said, that's exactly what he said.
They always connect. You have to connect.
You connected to jobs.
How many jobs are going to be added because of this?
Because of
my
this.
plan.
So if you're kind of shitting on the Green New Deal because of a jobs guarantee, even though you know those jobs are connected to the development of new technology, then you're full of shit. Especially moderates and centrists who do that.
Agreed. All right, so we are going to go to the... Oh, yeah, okay. So we're going to go back to Booker. Biden was asked a question about, if his policies were ambitious enough to energize progressives and ultimately beat Donald Trump. That was really the only targeted question at Biden. Of course, there's always multiple subjects, multiple issues that the candidates talk about, discuss, debate, argue about. We saw in the first debate, the first night though, that much of the targets were, let's see, what do we want to do? CNN. What does CNN want to do? Bernie ain't shit. What do you think about it? Is Bernie ain't shit?
Why is Bernie's
not a good enough answer.
Why is Bernie's platform scary?
Bernie ain't shit, right?
Yeah. Why?
Right. That seemed to be how a lot of the issues led off. They led off with how Bernie Sanders had an idea about this and how troubling it is. You didn't really see that on the second night. This was really, like I said, this was the only targeted question that really wasn't about like another issue. Everything else kind of flowed like it usually would.
It was like they were just nudging Biden.
Yeah.
Like
regularly.
Yeah, it was just like, hey Biden, hey, just let us know this. Hey Biden, let us know this. With Bernie, it was more like elbow from the sky.
Exactly. But anyway, after that, they did talk about beating Trump and who's the best to beat Trump. And so in this clip with Booker, he talks about why the state of Michigan was lost to the Democratic Party.
This is one of those times where we're not staring at the truth and calling it out. And this is a case for the Democratic Party. The truth will set us free. We lost the state of Michigan because everybody from Republicans to Russians were targeting the suppression of African-American voters. We need to say that. If the African-American vote in this state had been like it was 4 years earlier, we would have won the state of Michigan. We need to have a campaign that is ready for what's coming. An all-out assault, especially on the most valuable voter group in the highest performing voter group in our coalition, which is Black women. And so I will be a person that tries to fight against voter suppression, that can activate and engage the kind of voters and coalitions that are going to win states like Michigan and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin.
Thank you.
That might be uncomfortable for some people to hear because he brought in the subject of Russia and how Russians were definitely trying to suppress the vote of Black people. Now, whatever you feel about the whole subject of Russian meddling, the Trump, the Trump campaign, the Mueller investigation, all that. It seems to be accurate that the Russians were trying to get involved in the election in a way to suppress voting. And they actually did want Donald Trump to become president.
But the way they did it needs kind of more clarification.
Yeah. The whole, tying them to the Trump campaign and how Trump had knowledge about this and it was collusion. I don't know that there's a lot of evidence
the polling data,
that.
Cambridge Analytica, and Facebook.
We don't get
all that is
in
true,
like that.
but I think our position. I say I think because I think you're with me on this. It's like, what kind of impact did it have?
That's true.
Like Facebook ads and social media ads. Well, yeah, they did that shit.
They did, and they like you said, they created pages. They created protest rallies.
Protest rallies. They also created fake organizations.
Right.
And they actually tried to contact real legitimate organizations to work with.
Right.
I think there was some Russian national that was involved in stealing the identities of people. So some shit went down.
But the question is,
did it really have impact?
Exactly.
And we, actually don't think so. It's not something you can quantify. And to me, if you were talking about voter suppression, where does most of it occur?
Ooh.
How does most of it take place? And who's responsible for most of the voter suppression?
That would be, I would say, the political parties.
Yes. Yes.
Political parties do that.
Yes, political parties do that.
Yes.
Now, Democrats gerrymander, but not as much as Republicans.
anywhere
But as
on the
far
same
as like purging voters,
right? We saw what happened in North Carolina.
Invoking like illegal immigrants voting. That's a Republican strategy.
Right.
Ensuring that the least amount of people vote. That's a Republican strategy, and they have actually made it clear that that is a strategy. They're on tape. They're on tape saying that.
Yeah.
Like the less amount of people that vote, the better chance that they have.
And we know that to be accurate.
We know that to be accurate.
Because most of the country is not conservative. We know that to be accurate. So they know it as well. It is, if you're not cheating, you're not trying, right? That's their motto. You can firmly say, you can surely say that that's their motto. To stay in power, and not just on the, not talking about nationwide. We're talking about in state governments and local governments as well. To stay in power, they're going to have to game the system. And that's what they do. That is voter suppression.
Mm-hmm. And so, so I think, I don't know, I think that was kind of...
He threw it in there.
He threw it in
Look,
there.
there is an effort, the whole conversation about throwing Russians in there, that's something, I don't even really want to discuss that. But of course there is an effort to suppress the votes of black people. It goes back generations. Goes back absolute generations to the point to a point where no black people could vote. There was that time as well.
That is absolute
exactly
voter suppression.
Literacy tests, grandfather clauses.
The Russians were involved.
No, Russians were not. No, that was a grand old place, United States of America.
The grand old place.
Yeah, the grand old place.
You just come up with that?
It just came out.
Okay. Because like grand old party.
Yeah.
Okay.
The grand
I
old
see.
place. All right, let's move on. We're gonna go to the economy here. Julian Castro is talking about the economy.
Secretary Castro, this was for you. Wage growth is up, stocks are rising, unemployment is near historic lows, including for Latinos and African Americans. You have all outlined plans, but you in particular, that could end up raising taxes. How can you guarantee that won't hurt the economy?
Well, first of all, there are a lot of Americans right now that are hurting. Just go and ask the folks that just received notice that they're going to get laid off by General Motors, or ask the many folks who are sleeping on the streets in big cities and small towns across the United States, or ask fast food workers that I joined a couple of weeks ago that are working for minimum wage and can't provide for their families or pay the rent. So the idea that America is doing just fine is wrong. Not only that, this president always likes to take credit, like he did this. We've now had about 105 straight months of positive job growth, the longest streak in American history. Over 80 months of that was due to President Barack Obama. Thank you, Barack Obama. Thank you, Barack Obama. So, I believe that we need to invest in what will ensure that Americans can prosper in the years to come, making sure they have the knowledge and skills to compete in the 21st century economy, ensuring that they can afford the rent where they live, and that they have health care so that they don't have to worry about going homeless because they can't afford a medical procedure.
Oh boy, Julian Castro telling some truth. Now, it's uncomfortable for some people to hear that. I don't think it's uncomfortable for Democrats to hear that, of course, but somebody like, I don't know, Donald Trump.
I was about to say,
yeah.
Donald Trump would have probably been triggered by that because he said, thanks, Obama, talking about the economy.
Yeah, what do you say, 100 and, I can't remember, 102 straight months?
Yeah, consecutive months.
Of positive job growth. So that far precedes the administration of Donald Trump.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
That goes back to Obama. That goes back to Obama. So you have made this point many times.
Many.
I've talked about it. I've talked about the unemployment rate Well, I think I've talked about that more, and then you talked about the whole, how this economy has been ticking upwards.
Trending since 2009, 10-ish,
Yes.
2009.
And I think
10-ish.
you also made the point that really what we have with Donald Trump is that he hasn't busted it up.
And see, I think that's the only talking point Trump can realistically offer. He kind of let it slip during a press conference, and he mentioned it. He mentioned the economy going up during Obama, but he just mentioned that very, very, very quickly. But right after that, he said, but hey, y'all 401ks, you wouldn't have 401ks if I wasn't here. Basically, the economy would suck if I didn't get in.
Yes.
And I think that's a moment of a little bit of self-awareness. Now, he's using that self-awareness to kind of to manipulate people.
Of course it is.
He's just using that.
He's using it to lie.
To
people.
And I think I didn't even see this tweet. You sent it to me.
That's right. Yeah. Recently this was just yesterday. Yesterday morning. He tweeted out, he said, quote, "If I hadn't won the 2016 election, we would be in a great recession, depression right now. The people I saw on stage last night, and you can add in Sleepy Joe, Harris, and the rest, will lead us into an economic sinkhole, the likes of which we have never seen before. With me, only up."
Something tells me he's taking advice, maybe from some White House advisors, some campaign advisors on campaign rhetoric leading up to the 2020 election, because he definitely can't take credit for the economy.
No.
But what he can do is run on a hypothetical. That's what he's doing. He can run on a hypothetical because something you can't really prove. He said, hey, if I didn't get in, the economy would tank and we'd be going through a recession. There's no way to prove that.
But see, that last point, with me only up. Okay, let's take you out of the equation. How was the economy doing? It's going up.
It's going up.
With you, how's it going? It's going up.
Going up.
So it seems like you can put any fool there.
Any fool there.
And the economy would go up.
But
I like where Julian Castro took it, though. And that's where we usually take it as well. You're talking about stock prices. You're talking about big business capitalizing in this emerging boom that's going on right now.
Yeah.
Oh, they're raking it in, right? The economy's doing extremely well. Tell that to regular people that are living in these communities where they're still working more than one job. They're not being paid a fair or a living wage. There's thousands of Americans that are sleeping out on the streets.
We're just talking
How's the economy for them?
Yeah, we're just talking about the economy in reference to metrics and what the graphs show.
Yeah.
And that's what they use to determine how well they're doing.
Yeah.
We don't.
Oh, hell no.
We don't determine that.
How many regular people own stock? How many? If you do, of course there are many people that have 401ks.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing about people owning stock, I honestly, I mean, that's good. And that's good.
Yeah,
but
that's
I
good.
honestly don't care about that. You know why? Because they own stock in corporations that drain America. They own, essentially, when they say you need to own stock, develop, investment portfolio, invest your wealth, take advantage of this system, invest in these companies. I'm like, and I'm cool people do that. I'm fine with that. But then at the end of the day, what are we actually doing? What are you actually doing if you're investing money in these same corporations that are tearing down our economy? They're really tearing it down. It's an illusion that it's being built up, but like tearing down communities. Like if you are investing in these companies that contribute, or the CEOs of these companies contribute to why not the racial wealth gap, but just the wealth gap in general is so wide. Like I just see that as a contradiction.
It's an ongoing. It's perpetrating the suffering of people. It's just everlasting, ongoing. I mean, something has to be done. But like I said, anyway, just using those metrics, we clearly see that it's not the right gauge to assess how the economy is doing for most people in it. So all right, let's go to the TPP made an appearance in this debate, as it did in the last debate as well on the first night. I believe it was John Delaney that said that he would get us into the TPP. Yeah, he thought that was a good idea.
How do you run on that?
Yeah, nobody says that.
How do you run on that and actually think people are going to be like, he's running on the TPP?
Because
he's getting my vote.
Liberals and conservatives were against the TPP. Like, it's not really popular at all. But
like
he's trying to run.
It just seems as if like he is like trolling on every front. Like he wouldn't even. He probably wouldn't even poll well as a Republican.
Probably not. But here, let's see what Biden says about it.
Vice President Biden, would you rejoin the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which, of course, the President Trump withdrew from? Please respond.
I'd renegotiate it. We make up 25% of the world's economy. In order, either China's going to write the rules of the world for the 21st century on trade, or we are. We have to join with the 40% of the world that we had with us, and this time make sure that there's no one sitting at that table doing the deal unless environmentalists are there and labor is there. And to make sure we equip our workers first to compete by investing in them now, in the things to make them more competitive. That's what we have to do. Otherwise, they are going to write the rules of the road. We must have the rest of the world join us to keep them in check from abusing.
Thank you.
So, Joe Biden, if you can believe him, he doesn't have the same position. He's trying to, I guess, distance himself from his own president, Barack Obama. He's saying that, I wouldn't get us involved in the same old TPP. I would renegotiate, and I would have environmentalists and labor at the table. Without them, these corporations writing the rules is going to lead to a bad situation, of course, for workers in general. So I wouldn't do it without that. Do you believe him? Do you believe him? Really, that's what it comes down to. Because what he said was, I mean, it's something that we talked about with the TPP.
Because it allowed corporations to bypass environmental regulations.
And American laws.
American laws. And it basically inhibited anybody from challenging them legally.
Right. And they could
They can sue. You can, no. They can sue.
They can sue.
Yeah, they can sue. They can sue countries or states.
Yes.
And or organizations.
Right. And be compensated because their
profits,
laws infringe
on
upon their ability to make money.
Yeah.
So
that's why he added that in there. Well, the environmentalists got to be there. I'm like.
So again, this is what we talked about. I mean, this was a major sticking point. This is a major opposition point that we had against the TPP. It was a bad idea for workers. So his idea is we're going to actually create a situation. We're going to create an agreement that's actually good for the economy. It's going to be good for the environment. It's going to be good for workers. If you draft a policy like that, I'll take a look at it. I definitely will take a look at it.
That's a big if.
That's a big if.
And considering what we know about the TPP and what's in it and what it's designed to do in the first place, that would be counterintuitive. It would be counterintuitive.
It wouldn't be the TPP. It would be something completely different. It might as well not even be called the TPP. Believe him if you want to. I don't. All right. Excuse me. We're going to go to Kamala Harris. So the issue, this is about the economy as well, but it was about equal pay. So Kamala Harris has an idea about what to do with companies that are not paying women equally as men.
Since 1963, when we passed the Equal Pay Act, we have been talking about the fact women are not paid equally for equal work. Fast forward to the year of our Lord, 2019, and women are paid 80 cents on the dollar, black women 61 cents, Native American women 58 cents, Latinas 53 cents. I'm done with the conversation. So yes, I am proposing, in order to deal with this, one, I'm going to require corporations to post on their website whether they are paying women equally for equal work. Two, they will be fined for every 1% differential between what they are paying men and women. They will be fined 1% of their previous year's profits. That'll get everybody's attention.
Thank you, Senator.
Time for action.
That's a bold proposition. I'm definitely for equal pay for women. definitely. Make no bones about it. Should not exist where women get less pay than men for equal work. It's ridiculous. I wonder if this can actually be done, though, to force a corporation to post on their website if they are paying women equally, to fine them. And I didn't jot down the exact, how much
they would be fined.
Of their profits they were going to be fined. I just wonder if that's constitutional. I wonder if that's
or you wonder
if,
or if you just wonder if if that is as far as it goes.
Yeah.
Can they get around it? Can a company get around it? Because it's just posting it on their website or any place that's advertising, job opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
They can just say, we're equal opportunity employers. They already do it now. They already do that now.
I may be wrong. Again, I'm not. I can't speak as an expert about this and tell you how legitimate this proposal is or how possible it is. I really can't tell you that.
I'm talking about legally.
Yeah, legally.
Yeah,
I can't speak to it whatsoever. Ignorant to the possibilities of a proposal like this. But to me, it just kind of rubs me as this is for show. I'm talking strong because I do feel passionate about this. And I don't doubt that she does feel passionate about this. I don't doubt that about her on this subject. I don't doubt that. I just wonder. I just wonder how
she may be able to dictate what the corporations that have government contracts or apply for government contracts do. Maybe there's like how
some stipulations.
Yeah, there are stipulations if you want to kind of contract with the government.
Right.
Sometimes like local governments kind of cut off contract negotiations, just cut off doing contracts with certain businesses because they were proven to be like discriminatory. That does happen, but that only.
But private companies?
Yeah. So
how are you going to force private companies to do it?
That have maybe he can maybe private companies that get government subsidies or tax breaks, maybe.
I don't know. Yeah. Again, I'm not saying that I'm against it. I just wonder how possible it is.
I think that's the sticking point right there. We actually don't even know how possible that is.
Not at all.
It's like we can't even develop a very solid position on it because of that.
True. All right, let's go to. Okay, all right. So this was a little dust up here. And we're going to get to a little bit more of it, but Senator Kirsten Gillibrand from New York, she targeted Biden. She came prepared to target Biden on this one issue, and it was about women. So this was after Kamala Harris talked about, her proposal about fining companies, and she was asked about what Kamala Harris's proposal was, but she didn't go there. She wanted to take it in a different direction, and she wanted to take it in Biden's direction.
I want to address Vice President Biden directly. When the Senate was debating middle-class affordability for child care, he wrote an op-ed. He voted against it, the only vote. But what he wrote in an op-ed was that he believed that women working outside the home would, quote, create the deterioration of family. He also said that women who were working outside the home were, quote, avoiding responsibility. And I just need to understand, as a woman who's worked my entire career as the primary wage earner, as the primary caregiver. In fact, my second son, Henry, is here. And I had him when I was a member of Congress. So under Vice President Biden's analysis, am I serving in Congress resulting in the deterioration of the family because I had access to quality, affordable daycare? I just want to know what he meant when he said that.
That was a long time ago, and here's what it was about. It would have given people making today $100,000 a year a tax break for child care. I did not want that. I wanted the child care to go to people making less than $100,000, and that's what it was about. As a single father, who in fact raised 3 children for 5 years by myself, I have some idea what it cost. I support making sure that every single solitary person needing child care get an $8,000 tax credit now. That would put 700,000 women back to work, increase the GDP by almost 0.8%. It's the right thing to do. If we can give tax breaks to corporations for these things, why can't we do it this way?
But Mr. Vice President, you didn't answer my question. What did you mean when you said when a woman works outside the home, it's resulting in, quote, the deterioration of family?
No,
that we are avoiding, these are quotes. It was the title of the op-ed.
From the very beginning, my deceased wife worked, but we had children. My present wife has worked all the way through raising our children. The fact of the matter is, the situation is one that I don't know what's happened. I wrote the Violence Against Women Act, Lilly Ledbetter. I was deeply involved in making sure the equal pay amendments. I was deeply involved in all these things. I came up with the It's On Us proposal to see to it that women were treated more decently on college campuses. You came to Syracuse University with me and said it was wonderful. I'm passionate about the concern, making sure women are treated equally. I don't know what's happened except that you're now running for president.
So I understand, Mr. Vice President, I respect you deeply. I respect you deeply. But those words are very specific. You said women working outside the home would lead to the deterioration of family. My grandmother worked outside the home.
So
my mother worked outside the home. And
Thank you, Senator Gillibrand.
So, well, he has.
I want to bring Senator Harris
either
into
he
this
no
conversation.
longer believes it. I mean, I just think he needs to.
I never believed it.
Thank you,
okay.
Senator Harris.
Honestly, you know, as bad as Joe Biden is, I think Gillibrand fucked up on this one. I don't understand the relevance of that question. If you're talking about today's politics. Like, at least when Kamala Harris did it, it was in reference to something.
Right.
It was in reference to something he brought up.
Right.
As a reason to why
She
he's
just didn't go
qualified.
back on her own.
Yeah, no, it's like as a reason that made him qualified to be president in this modern day. I just kind of thought it was like an empty attack. Again, I don't like Biden, but I just thought it was weird. Like, hey, why'd you say this 30, 40 years ago? He didn't answer the question though.
Right.
That's one thing though. I
Right.
did notice he didn't answer the question. He started listing off things that he's done for women. If anything, he should have brought up Anita Hill. If you're going to question his, I don't know, how he values women's agency, women's voices, he should have brought up that.
She should have brought that up.
Sorry, yeah,
Oh,
she
yeah.
should have brought
Okay.
that up.
Right.
More so than a statement he made about like this, the home family deteriorating because women were working out of the home.
Yeah.
He could have done a better job at answering that, but he did it the best way he could in just listing all the things he has done to empower women. So that's why it's like I think the attack was a little unnecessary, and I think it helped him out because of the one-liner. You know,
Yeah, true.
He said, "Hey, you
got
knew
applause
me.
for that.
You knew me," and
Yeah.
I think
you came to support what I was
doing. So
Yeah.
it just makes it look disingenuous. And the only thing that's different is what did he say?
She was running for president
And I was like, damn, why would you set him up? Why would you set him up like this T-ball?
You put it on the team.
You put it on the team. You set it up for this. You set it up for Joe Biden. Like, you just made Joe Biden come off looking like he won that. Like, you fucked it up. You fucked it up for us, man. Like, not really. But in that one, here's the thing. I don't want him to win shit.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, man, why'd you do that? And it's like, and he knew after he got those applause, he was like, yeah. Because you saw it, like, he was like.
And then she was saying, yeah, well, yeah, I respect him. He was like.
Yeah, but
Yeah, right.
he knew. He's like, I've been taking it on the chin all night, and that was my moment. I was like, man.
Now see, but I think they both took an L here.
Oh yeah.
I think they both took an L, and this is a situation where the debate doesn't work for you because you're in a debate. You're on a debate stage. You only have so long to talk, and like you said, Biden could have done a better job at explaining himself. And really, what Kirsten Gillibrand did was initiate a completely phony attack.
Yeah.
It was completely phony. And see, that's where I said the debate didn't work for Joe Biden because we don't know anything about it. This article or this op-ed that he wrote took place in 1981. Okay, we were babies at the time. Right? A lot of people can't go back to 81 and be like, yeah, you know, I remember that time when Joe Biden wrote that article and he talked disparagingly about women. No, nobody really knew about this article, right? So of course, now that Kirsten Gillibrand made this public, of course, people are going to have to go into the details. And she actually, I think it was a campaign that actually tweeted out, like, you know, his article, a clip of his article on Twitter. If you look at it, you will see it's a completely phony argument. Okay, so the actual quote that Joe Biden wrote in this article about the deterioration of the family, he said, quote, a recent act of Congress puts the federal government in position through the tax codes of subsidizing the deterioration of the family. That is tragic, end quote. It did not say anything about women working or what's causing the deterioration of the family. He never said that. Now, this is at a point in time, you know, this was the early 80s. This is at a point in time where it was usually men that were working and, you know, women were staying at home with the kids. Now, that wasn't, that wasn't the situation for everybody, but usually there was one person working and usually it was the man. So if you're going to say that, hey, yeah, you know, of course he was talking about men. Oh, well, he was talking about women because, of course, that was the situation. Okay, maybe loosely you could make that argument. But the actual issue here was the child tax credit. Joe Biden in this article was arguing against the child tax credit or the child care tax credit, but he was arguing against higher income people qualifying for it. Actually, not in this article, but it was the same period of time in 1981. He said that he did not care whether in a modern marriage you want the man or the woman to take that responsibility, end quote. So he didn't care if there was a man or a woman working at home or you know, away from the home. He wanted somebody to be there taking care of the kid. And he thought that with this child care tax credit, that would encourage higher income families to have two parents working outside the home and there not being one parent inside the home. Disagree with them or not, but it wasn't about women. And then when it came to an actual bill in the Senate, he was the only senator that actually voted against it. But again, it wasn't that he was against the child care tax credit. He was against the child care tax credit going for higher income people making over $30,000 a year. Now you say $30,000 a year, that seems pretty low. At that time, that equates to about $88,000 today. So again, it's you have to involve context here. I'm not a fan of Joe Biden whatsoever. I have many disagreements with him. I absolutely do not want him to be the Democratic nominee. But this was a completely phony attack. And you have to remain objective. There are many things to attack Joe Biden about. And we've seen many of those things. We saw many of those things last night on the debate stage.
You don't have to make anything up.
Don't have to. And we said this about Hillary Clinton many times as well. A lot of people administered fake arguments about Hillary Clinton. And there were a couple times where we were like, she doesn't deserve to be criticized for that. Because
what's the takeaway here? What does it accomplish?
It doesn't accomplish anything.
And what's the consequence of baseless attacks? If you're
found out?
Not just if the person is found out. Mm-hmm. You know, because I don't think it's about the person who's issuing the baseless attack.
I get you.
So if you have someone who's issuing a baseless attack on somebody who is already politically toxic, like Joe Biden or like Hillary Clinton, like you mentioned, if you're issuing a baseless attack on someone who has enough, I guess, negatives to highlight, it kind of, I don't know. I think the consequence of that is making that person come out on top and looking good.
Looking like a sympathetic
figure.
Yep.
Because then everything else comes into question. Because if this baseless talking point or this baseless allegation or baseless narrative is being proved as false, then it's like in people's mind, they're going to be like, maybe all the other things that are true are false. Things that are actually true come into question. So it ends up compromising, I guess, people's position on certain figures. And I think we already know about Biden.
Yeah, we do.
It doesn't do that for us. And not in this one moment. But a lot of people might look at this and say, see, Gillibrand was lying. And we have proof that, she was lying. So that means Biden is being treated unfairly.
You don't have to do it. Again, there were so many issues that surfaced on that stage within those 2 hours, and many more that you can point to as well. Again, going back, Biden wanted one parent at home. He didn't want both parents working outside the home. You know, look, disagree, agree with them, whatever. But in 81, he said that he didn't care if it was a man or a woman, the parent, the father or the mother staying at home. He didn't care.
Just a bad look.
She said it at least, 2 or 3 times that Joe Biden said a woman working outside the home led to the deterioration of the family. Now, if that's not a disingenuous attack, man, she's whack.
It's unnecessary.
She's whack.
It's so
unnecessary,
it's unnecessary,
man.
It's unnecessary.
You get a 0 for that attempt.
And honestly, that I had her kind of in the middle.
Good gosh,
as far
man.
as like my debate assessment and ranking all the candidates, I kind of had her in the middle. I kind of had her in the middle. I kind of had her like above Booker. I had her above Booker, and then
hard. And like you said, this wasn't based on anything else. She just brought this. It's like somebody just gave her an art. Yo, look what Joe Biden said. Look how we can kind of frame it.
You know what?
It wasn't tied to anything else.
And I would just chalk it up to maybe it's just her campaign trying to rush and put something together for the debate so she can have something to attack Biden on. I would say that, but I can't because Biden highlighted this kind of personal relationship that he had with her.
True.
So I can't just say it's on her campaign. Yeah. You have to say that she was involved in this. Maybe this was her going alone, going unilaterally.
Give me something on him. She could have administered the help of her campaign. Yo, give me something. You got that? Oh yeah,
that's enough.
This is it right here. We're definitely gonna talk about women. So you know what? I'm gonna pivot to this. And then, like I said, and she doubled down on it. Her campaign provided the article, the clipping of the article on Twitter.
She was hoping that nobody read it.
How you gonna broadcast what he actually said, but then on the stage say he said women led?
Again, I'm mad that it was a disingenuous attack, but I'm even more upset that it was a disingenuous attack on Biden.
Exactly, man.
Like. It's not something you have to do.
Do better. Be best.
Be best.
All right. We're going to go to... We only got a couple more clips now.
Clip number 255.
We are officially on clip number 22 coming at you right now. All right. I know this is a lot. But like I said, we didn't have time constraints, so let's get it all out there. All right. So the next clip we're going to go to is... Where are we at? I'm getting lost here. Okay, so we're done with the economy. We're done about equal pay for women. Foreign policy. Just a tidbit about how the introduction of foreign policy began. You do remember the first night, the introduction to foreign policy was, hey, Bernie.
You're just like Trump.
You're just like Trump. You say the same things as Trump.
Even though you don't.
Why should voters think that you're different? That's how they led off foreign policy. Now, here, it was completely different. They actually led with, an actual question that wasn't disparaging of a candidate. But anyway, there was one question on this topic, and I thought I had a image of it, but I don't think I have the image on this computer. But I think it was Jake Tapper that asked Andrew Yang, what should the United States do about Iran breaching the nuclear agreement?
What kind of...
And we were sitting there like...
Why is that even a question? Like,
do we know what happened?
How does the United States have any authority on Iran on this issue, considering...
Got to consider it.
Considering...
Trump pulled us out of the Iran nuclear agreement.
The only countries that have authority are the countries that stayed in the agreement with Iran.
Exactly. So ask them the question, not the United States, not candidates for president in the United States. You can't do anything because you relieved them of any obligations.
But
now.
you know what I did like though, because Yang had the first opportunity to answer that question, right?
I think he was the only one.
He was the only one.
Yeah.
Maybe they were trying to trip Yang up.
Maybe.
But I'm glad he talked around that question.
Yeah.
He talked around the question. Now,
Yeah,
he didn't explicitly say we were out of the deal, but he did say, like, we need to get back into it, which lets me know that he knows we're out of the deal.
Right.
He said we need to get back in the deal. So I'm like, why did he even ask that question?
It was ridiculous. So what we're going to get to is on foreign policy. Excuse me. Governor Jay Inslee suggests that Biden had bad judgment on the Iraq war. And so Biden is here responding to that. And also Tulsi Gabbard chimes in.
Vice President Biden, he was obviously suggesting that you made the wrong decision and had bad judgment when you voted to go to war in Iraq as a U.S. Senator.
I did make a bad judgment trusting the president saying he was only doing this to get inspectors in and get the UN to agree to put inspectors in. From the moment shock and awe started, from that moment, I was opposed to the effort and I was outspoken as much as anyone at all in the Congress and administration. Secondly, I was asked by the president in the first meeting we had on Iraq, he turned and said, Joe, get our combat troops out in front of the entire national security team. And one of the proudest moments of my life was to stand there in Afwa Palace and tell everyone that we're coming, all our combat troops are coming home. I opposed the surge in Afghanistan. This long overdue, we should have not, in fact, gone into Afghanistan.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I want to bring in, I would like to bring in the person on the stage who served in Iraq, Congresswoman Gabbard. Your response to what Vice President Biden just said.
We were all lied to. This is the betrayal. This is the betrayal to the American people, to me, to my fellow service members. We were all lied to, told that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction, was working with al-Qaeda, and that this posed a threat to the American people. So I enlisted after 9/11 to protect our country, to go after those who attacked us on that fateful day, who took the lives of thousands of Americans. The problem is that this current president is continuing to betray us. We were supposed to be going after al-Qaeda, but over years now, not only have we not gone after al-Qaeda, who is stronger today than they were in 9/11, our president is supporting al-Qaeda.
Now, what led off this clip here? It was Biden, right? Biden led off the clip. And
Biden led off the clip. This was directed at Biden because of his decision.
Because of his Iraq war vote.
Because of his Iraq war vote. And his answer in regard to that was abysmal.
Yes, it was.
Like, we thought the inspectors were going to go in. We authorized them to go to war, and then we thought the inspectors were going to go in.
See, and we've heard this talking point before. Especially from the Democratic politicians, they gave George Bush the authority to go to war, but they didn't assume that, or they didn't figure that he was going to initiate the war without
the evidence.
Without the UN investigators actually going in and being sure that, okay, there's a case here for you to go to war. So they thought that was going to come first.
How about this? How about not give the authorization
until
the inspectors?
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying? Like at that point, in his career, he is not some sort of naive, wet behind the ears politician. He knows the system. He knows what's up. Like, if you're going to talk bad about Republicans and say they're not trustworthy, why would you give authorization? Why would you approve of?
Right.
Why would you approve of such, authorization before inspectors revealed anything about Iraq and whether they actually had WMD? So that excuse is just, it doesn't fly with me.
Something was odd here. Something was a little odd here in the clip that we just showed you.
And I would suspect that many people don't even notice what was odd about the situation, considering what is Tulsi Gabbard's, I don't know, claim to fame. What is her claim to fame as far as like her presidential candidacy and what she holds up as, like, I guess,
what's in
what makes her
wheelhouse?
what's in her wheelhouse, so what makes her the strongest candidate,
Yes.
and that's foreign policy.
Definitely is.
And so now when we're looking at other situations where someone's record has come into question, even when it's not in her wheelhouse, she does make it a point to question that person's record
She
and
did
attack
it
that person.
twice
She did it
on this
twice
debate stage.
on the
She
debate
attacked
stage.
Kamala Harris on the issue of health care, and she did it on criminal justice reform as well.
And that's and criminal justice, that's not really her wheelhouse, but she made it a point to attack Kamala Harris. So and great, we'll praise her for that.
Right.
But sometimes it's not just about who you attack, it's who you don't attack or who you go out of your way to not attack. So as we praise Tulsi Gabbard for exposing Kamala Harris, and as people, make, make the case that Kamala Harris got destroyed, blah, blah, blah. I'll clap for that.
Okay.
But see, we have to talk about the things in the void. That's what we have to talk about, because those things matter too. And sometimes those things that are in the void get ignored because we're praising someone for, I guess, something they did in another moment, which is Kamala versus Tulsi in that criminal justice moment. But in this moment, it seems like she was avoiding holding someone accountable and avoiding, like, exposing someone that probably has a lot more to expose, and especially on this issue
That
of
particular
Iraq.
individual had just finished speaking about how, it was the wrong vote. He's regretful about that vote and how he didn't know that George Bush was going to go to war and this and that, and it was the wrong vote, this and that. Somebody like Tulsi Gabbard, who on the stage is the only veteran.
The only veteran.
And the only, probably on that stage, the only one that makes foreign policy, like their bones, like what they talk about consistently, that they're an expert on foreign policy. So when you have somebody that, actually was integral in the whole reason why you joined the military, when you have that person on stage that just talked right before you got an opportunity to speak, and you choose not to actually criticize them for their vote and their history in foreign policy, it looks like you're purposely avoiding that for some reason. And we've talked about this before, in which she has defended Joe Biden on the issue of the bus on busing, when Kamala Harris and Joe Biden had that dust up on the first debate. Tulsi Gabbard chose to defend Joe Biden, say that no, he's not a racist like Kamala Harris was trying to say, which Kamala Harris did not say.
That's why I just don't even like the setup, and I still am a little set aside by Tulsi's continued misrepresentation of what Kamala Harris said. We don't like Kamala Harris, but again, we don't have to misrepresent anything she says in order to criticize her. So even the attack on Kamala is essentially baseless in that situation, because she never called Biden a racist.
But even with the when we talked about the Fox Sports interview that Tulsi Gabbard did, she was again asked that question about the busing, and she didn't want to get into that. She did not want to get into it, but she did get into being very critical about Kamala Harris. Again, this was the first time we really saw her. Well, not the first time, because she was critical about Kamala Harris and saying that she called Joe Biden racist. But she didn't want to answer the question about the busing. She wanted to let them have that fight. But that led her to say that on the issue of foreign policy, Kamala Harris was not qualified to be the commander-in-chief because of her temperament and because she had no experience in foreign policy. Now, it's cool for you to say, if you could point to something about Kamala Harris and maybe her votes, and we did when we talked about it, where if you point to those votes and say that, you see this is why, she shouldn't be the next commander-in-chief. Cool. We get that. When you say that she doesn't have the temperament, that seems pretty empty. But if you're going to call anybody not fit for office on the issue of foreign policy, and you were just asked about Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, and you choose just to talk about Kamala Harris and not Joe Biden, who has an extensive past
now you're talking
and
about
record.
the radio show now,
Yes.
not on that stage.
Not on the stage, on the radio show, because we talked about this before. But when you chose not to go after Joe Biden, who does have a record on the issue of foreign policy that goes back decades, you didn't choose to talk about them. And then now, when we get to the debate stage,
When one person is the center of attention on this particular question,
and he talked right before you did.
Not only did he just talk right before Gabbard, the moderator actually prompted Gabbard to talk about Joe Biden.
Let's get Tulsi in here. You're the only
What do you have to say about Joe Biden? Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
What did she say? We were all lied to, and I was like, oh no, something ain't right. Something ain't right. Something ain't right. You was asked specifically about Biden, and you punted. You punted, and you just reverted to, oh, we were all lied to. I'm like, damn, everybody off the hook then.
Wow.
Everybody's off the hook now. I'm sorry, if you're going to use that answer for Biden, you got to use that answer for everybody. Everybody's off the hook because we were all lied to. And I'm like, okay.
So you can't criticize anybody on the Iraq war.
You can't.
vote
No,
anymore.
you can't. You can't. Again, this potentially could like undercut like her entire. I wouldn't say her entire platform, but
most of it.
the main portion of her platform.
She's the one that talks about the true cost of war. That's why she stepped down as being a deputy chair of the DNC, because she wanted to stand behind Bernie Sanders' campaign in 2016 because she felt like his candidacy was best on the issue of foreign policy. His candidacy knew about the true cost of war. Of course, and you can definitely include the Iraq war vote in that type of strategy, that type of mentality for her.
Yeah,
it's
so
amazing.
By punting,
this is amazing.
By punting the question and kind of, I would say, absolve Joe Biden of his role in his decision. Then now you have to almost absolve everyone who played a part.
But
in
you
that.
know this ain't about everybody, though. It can't be about everybody. You know that she wouldn't do that for everybody. You really have to ask yourself, why is she... There's nothing wrong with punching up. You see, I mean, many of the candidates on stage last night, they punched upwards towards Joe Biden. Now, many of them punched on the merits. Many of them chose to punch when there was a legitimate opportunity to do that. We saw one that chose to create her own opportunity in Kirsten Gillibrand. That was fake. That was phony. But still, they punched upwards to Joe Biden, who is presumed to be the front runner in the race, polling the highest out of all of the Democratic candidates for president.
And again,
so if Tulsi Gabbard wants to punch up, cool. Why are you not punching all the way up?
And again, like, I think even the moderators are aware of what Tulsi Gabbard says is her strong point. That's why the question went to her.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
something's right.
Something ain't right. And again,
something right.
Anything that we suggest, about why she would do that would be irresponsible speculation. We don't know. I'm not even going to, work my imagination. I'm not even going to do that. But I'm just saying, something
ain't right.
Something ain't right.
All right. So now we're going to go to the Mueller investigation was brought up towards the end of the debate, and this is an exchange between Senator Michael Bennet and Julian Castro about impeachment and what they feel about it.
I just want to make sure whatever we do doesn't end up with an acquittal by Mitch McConnell in the Senate, which it surely would, and then President Trump would be running saying that he had been acquitted by the United States Congress. I believe we have a moral obligation to beat Donald Trump. He has to be a single-term president, and we can't do anything that plays into his hands.
I think that too many folks in the Senate and in the Congress have been spooked by 1998. I believe that the times are different. And in fact, I think that folks are making a mistake by not pursuing impeachment. The Mueller report clearly details that he deserves it. And what's going to happen in the fall of next year, of 2020, if they don't impeach him, is he's going to say, you see, the Democrats didn't go after me on impeachment. And you know why? because I didn't do anything wrong. These folks that always investigate me, they're always trying to go after me. When it came down to it, they didn't go after me there because I didn't do anything wrong. Conversely, if Mitch McConnell is the one that lets him off the hook, we're going to be able to say, well, sure, they impeached him in the House,
Castro,
but his friend Mitch McConnell, Moscow Mitch, let him off the hook.
Senator Bennett, please respond.
Moscow Mitch. Moscow Mitch.
We really don't talk about impeachment. We really don't talk about impeachment here. I mean, we may have some side conversation maybe after the show, but I think like maybe a couple of weeks ago we talked about it, and we were like, if they were going to do it, they should have been done it.
True. Like, they're losing the case for it.
They're losing the case for it.
As days go by and they haven't done it, it's like, okay, I think you're going to have less and less American support for that, like individual support for it.
In the middle of election.
Yeah, it's kind of going to be distracting.
It's going to be distracting.
Unless you have, that, you know, that knife in the chest, you know.
Unless you have, yeah. And again.
Something that's going to completely knock them out.
And there's almost a dozen side investigations going on that actually are extensions of Mueller's investigation.
Right.
So that may have something to do with why Democrats aren't moving forward, because there's a lot of information still that's yet to be kind of fleshed out. But yeah, I mean, there's enough in that report if you actually read it. And most of the report is not just documentation put together by Mueller or the lawyers. It is, but a lot of it is actually a documentation of what was already public. That's the funny thing about the report. A lot of the stuff it documents is stuff that's actually available to the public and was available in the media. And it cites these media stories and covers this. So there's a lot of players in there that were involved in the Trump campaign, like Lewandowski, Nunes, Hope Hicks, McGahn, Papadopoulos, all those people, whether it be Manafort, Gates, you name it. There's a lot of people in there. And it's pretty interesting. And then you have those instances of obstruction that you can't deny.
Can't.
So, but if they were going to go in some kind of impeachment direction, I think it's just like.
See, and Michael Bennett is trying to point to, you know, if we do it, you know, if the Democrats do it, if the House of Representatives actually initiate these proceedings, then when it gets to the Senate, of course, the Republicans control the Senate, and they're going to of course, they're not going to vote to impeach him. They're not going to vote to, remove him from office. So he's scared that Trump is going to run on, I win, I was acquitted by the Senate. But that cuts both ways, because you heard exactly what Julian Castro said. Because if you don't do it, then Trump can say, well, they had all this information on me. They had all this evidence, right? But they didn't do anything. They're phony. You see, this was a complete sham. It was a coup.
He's going to say it's a sham either way.
Exactly.
He's going to say it's a sham either way.
So really, at this point, do it if it's necessary. I mean, like, do it if it can't be overlooked at all. If you have the nail in the coffin, go ahead and do it. But the stalling, the kind of like, okay, well, should we do it? There's more people saying that we should do it. Again, it's kind of chipping away at the attention of the election that's going to take place next year. I don't know, man. I really don't know. I really don't know, man. At this point, I don't know. But it does cut both ways. All right, so we have one more clip based, just about this debate. I guess a clip that happened at the debate, and closing statements. So really just wanted to show one because we didn't show a lot of the opening statements. What's funny is in opening statements and closing statements, of course I take notes. And there's one person where I didn't write anything down when I was taking notes, and that was Senator Michael Bennett. I didn't write anything down in opening statements or closing statements. And I just didn't. Usually there's something that I write, like a summary or something like that, or a key word that they said. With Bennett, I didn't have anything. So he didn't really make an impression for me.
He hasn't made an impression at all, not just in his
I don't think so.
opening or closing statements, just during the debates.
Yeah, and not even because I don't, agree with some of his positions, because there are some things that he said, especially last night, that I did agree with. It's just I don't think he's making that much of an impression. But there were some good statements. In the closing statements, there were some good remarks. Tulsi, of course, talked about foreign policy. Gillibrand said that she was the one that knew how to beat Trump because, she's not afraid of big fights. She can win conservative votes, which of course she can. She went back to her record because when she was a representative in New York, she won in a red district twice. She was a blue dog Democrat, a conservative Democrat.
I knew you were going to do that.
It wasn't until she became a senator in which she changed, in which she progressed to become a progressive now.
And what did she say? The first thing she was going to do?
Oh goodness!
When she got into the White House,
that was the whack line you were talking about.
That was the whack line I was talking about. Like she said, she was going to Clorox the Oval Office.
She did say that.
I was like,
she certainly said that.
I was like, people.
That's dumb.
I'm like, you named a brand. It probably would have came out better if you said bleach. I'm going to bleach it. But even that's better. But I said disinfect. Probably would have made more sense. People don't. I don't.
It was just like, okay,
corny.
Why?
You're corny.
We don't need that.
Yeah.
We don't need that.
Oh, okay. We don't need corniness.
No, we don't need that.
I mean, if we need something, if you're going to issue your little one-liners, you know what I'm saying? And
see, Yang did that
very
well.
Do it well
in his opening statement. He did that very well. Gillibrand, not so much. Let's see. De Blasio, he talked about Trump practicing socialism for the rich, which was good. That was good. Inslee, of course, he talked about climate change. I was definitely into it. Me personally, I thought it was a little bit theatrical, just a little bit, because he was talking about how survival of the planet and people were in the hands of the next president. A lot of power is in the hands of the next president, definitely on the issue of climate change, but survival?
Hey man, he's got to.
I don't know.
These opening statements and closing statements are like their presidential trailers.
Yeah, that's true. Gotta go big.
You gotta go. You gotta get that dramatic voice.
Right.
You know how the dramatic voice is, right. and these Hollywood trailers. Explosions. That dude with the deep voice in a world, that is threatened. For just stuff like
lives hanging in the
balance. Yeah, I know, right?
Anyway,
watch it play out.
Yeah. Blah blah blah. Let's see. Booker talked about his personal ties to Detroit. Talked about the American dream. Oh yeah, I did make the comment that Booker. There's a lot of talk about Marianne Williamson doing the whole love thing and love each other and let's come together and unite and all this. Booker really does the same thing, but worse. I mean, he doesn't come off as well. Really. Actually, Marianne Williamson, they say it doesn't come off with Marianne Williamson. With Booker,
forced.
It's forced. He looks inauthentic when he does it. It doesn't look real.
He looks like an android doing some slam poetry.
Yeah, it doesn't look real, man. It doesn't play, man. He needs to lose it.
He just
lose it.
I know.
Just don't do it anymore.
Because he's like I don't know. He's more of a lecturer type.
Yeah.
He's more of a lecturer type. So he's a good speaker.
And we've said before, when he's actually being authentic and genuine, we can tell. When he's not, it's easy to notice as well.
You know what? I was trying to think of something. Cory Booker. I was trying to think of something because his head reminded me of something. And that is exactly it. Kilo 19. I was looking for something. There was something. Mr. Potato Head.
Mr. Potato Head.
I was trying to find it and I couldn't find it. And that's it. Mr. Potato Head.
Kamala Harris talked about prosecuting the case against Trump, of course. Talked about defeating the predator, which is Trump. She's an old prosecutor. She's a former prosecutor, so that's exactly what she does. The clip of whose clip we're gonna show in the closing debates is Biden, and it's for a specific reason, which we'll get into.
8 more years of Donald Trump will change America in a fundamental way. The America we know will no longer exist. Everybody knows who Donald Trump is. We have to let him know who we are. We choose science over fiction. We choose hope over fear. We choose unity over division. And we choose the idea that we can, as Americans, when we act together, do anything. This is the United States of America. When we've acted together, we have never, never, never been unable to overcome whatever the problem was. If you agree with me, go to Joe 30330 and help me in this fight. Thank you very much.
Yo, first of all, I have no idea what website that is. That's first. No idea what he's 30303. Like, I lost. You lost me, man. I don't know what you're talking about. That's first. But really, what we, look, I'm sure that played well. I'm sure that played well with the audience. I'm sure that played well with a lot of people that are watching. Hey, we're America, But that one line that he said about how we're America, never in our history have we ever failed to overcome any problem. I'm sorry, that kind of rubs me the wrong way, just a little bit, because it seems to be that since the inception of this country, this great nation, racism has been just embedded into it. Is it still here? Is it still here? I think it's still here. Bigotry, racism, all of that. Discrimination, disenfranchisement, all of that is still here. And it's embedded in our society and levels of government. It's all over the place inside this country. At the most prominent levels as well. At the most prominent level. The top office, the top executive office in this country. But we've never failed to overcome any problem that we have been faced. Again, it sounds good. It sounds really good. It's a good one-liner. Hey, this is America. We're strong. We're tough. We're righteous. We do what needs to be done. We overcome problems. That's our history, and that will be our future. Vote for me. I said it better than he did, actually.
Yeah, you did.
But it's false.
Say that last part. 3-3-0-3-0-3. Yeah, he kind of stumbled there, but that was just a funny part.
That was funny.
That was the funny part. But yeah, I mean, that was,
and that's just one issue, really. Racism. I mean, that's like Marianne Williamson says, the underbelly of the country, no doubt. But that's just one issue. It's like there's not other problems as well that we have dealt with for many, many, many years that have not gone anywhere. How about the corporatocracy? Is that still here?
Actually, that was the first thing that was on my mind. I don't think Joe Biden's going to deal with that. I don't think Joe Biden sees that as an obstacle, because I think Inslee brought that up at one point during the debate. Maybe it was De Blasio.
Okay.
De Blasio brought that up during the debate, where he cited Biden's soft spot for corporations.
That's right. His opening statement, I believe. I believe that was his opening statement. Yeah.
What did he say? Something like your lifestyle is not going to change or something?
Yeah, something your situation.
Your situation is not going to fundamentally change.
Yeah.
He said that to some very wealthy people.
Yep. Who he wanted to be investors. Or contributors to his
contributors. So he doesn't see that as an obstacle.
Nope. All right. So really, that's what we have for the. We got through all the clips, relating to that debate. The candidate speaking. It's when we get before even we go to that. I was actually kind of surprised to find out that we talked about last night who Google Trends had said was the most searched candidate during the debate, and that was Marianne Williamson. And, maybe it was a little bit surprising, maybe it wasn't, but we did note that she had a good performance.
Yeah.
Bernie Sanders was third, Bernie Sanders was second, Elizabeth Warren was third. Seems to be like we had those candidates in the top three. Those were the top three candidates that performed well.
Yeah.
So really, wasn't that surprising. I was kind of surprised that Tulsi Gabbard was the top search candidate. according to Google Trends.
I wasn't surprised, and this is why I wasn't surprised, because she had that one standout moment. She had the one standout moment
with Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris, and that was enough. And considering the people who were on that stage, considering the people on that stage kind of just like throwing shots at each other, kind of like shots that could hurt either one.
Right.
I think you have to say that she stood out the most, even though to me there wasn't much like to grab onto other than that one moment from Kamala. What she didn't do, to me personally, was strengthen her own political identity, but she didn't damage it either. I think that's one of those things.
Right.
She didn't really. I mean, we didn't learn anything new about Tulsi.
That's true.
But I think if you're talking about lower tier candidates or the candidates that are polling lower, like her, I think the strategy is going to be more about going after those who are the higher polling. It has to be.
But did any of the lower tier candidates, do you see them getting a bump from their performances last night?
No.
I mean, did they do enough to actually even make it to the third debate in September?
No, and see, and again, you don't always look to Google Trends.
No, of
right?
course not.
You don't to determine
That's just
like
one statistic. We don't even know how relevant.
And also,
that is.
if you think about like people are probably just looking for that moment. People probably already like her. They're looking for that moment. Tulsi Gabbard destroys Kamala Harris. Tulsi Gabbard flips to Kamala Harris upside down. You know what I'm saying? So like you got people looking for the situation. So I don't know. I mean, I have her like in the top with Castro
for this debate.
Yeah.
In performance.
Yeah, because she didn't do anything to damage herself.
Okay.
Like I have her up there with Castro. It's her Castro 1 and 2. To me, Castro impressed me more than anybody else, especially with his, comments on immigration, criminal justice reform. But yeah, those are my top two. Actually,
I don't have Tulsi in the top two.
Why?
Maybe I don't know if I'm drawing too much from her failure to attack Joe Biden.
That's what I was thinking. You're maybe like looking at what she didn't do.
Yeah, you do have to consider it. But even if I did not consider that, still, based on appearances and based on what I saw on that stage, I still don't think I would consider her coming out in the top two. I think Julian Castro definitely had a strong performance. I actually think Cory Booker.
Really?
Cory Booker had a very good performance. Yes. Now, again, when we talk about, you remember when we talked about criminal justice reform and how Biden challenged him? Cory Booker ended up taking the W, and Biden ended up taking that L because Biden couldn't actually prosecute the case against him. He didn't have all that information. So there were a lot, within that 5 minutes of conversation between the two of them, Booker had some very strong lines.
I just didn't like most of again, we went over it during the broadcast, but I just didn't like a lot of his answers.
Well,
I would say like as far as he fared against Biden in those particular engagements, I would think he came out on top. But coming out on top with Biden, it's not hard to do if you do your homework, which Gillibrand failed at, and I think that's why, to me, she moved down.
Right.
She moved down below Booker and De Blasio.
But we have to see, or we have to kind of speculate about what people are seeing during this debate.
Sure.
Now, so like when I say somebody did the best, really it's not based on like their answers and what I perceive them to be. Like I said, Tulsi Gabbard in my head, like I said, that was a definite negative that she chose to not go after Joe Biden.
That's personal.
That's personal. But I think just in optics, I think Cory Booker had a stronger performance. And one of the reasons, because just based on opportunity, he spoke longer than Tulsi Gabbard did as well.
You would have to apply that to Tulsi Gabbard too. If you're talking about optics. Like, to us, yes.
Yeah.
To us, that looks bad.
Yeah.
And so that plays into your assessment. But minus that, if you're talking about how other people perceive that, and how other people perceive her performance, you would have to be higher if you're going to eliminate your like kind of
my bias.
Yeah.
I think she had a strong performance. I do think she had a strong performance, and definitely when she was going after Kamala Harris, it was strong. It was definitely strong. It was one of the moments of the night, especially when she was talking about the issue of criminal justice reform. I think that was probably stronger than when she was going after after healthcare. Still, she did not talk as long as she didn't talk as long as Booker. She didn't talk as long as Biden. I wouldn't say that Biden is a winner. I would not say that he was a loser. I would not say that Biden was a loser because he did fare better than he did in the first debate. He seemed to be completely blindsided from Kamala Harris attacking him in that first debate. And he didn't know what to do with himself. And I don't know if that clouded the rest of it. I don't know if he just was scrambled in his thoughts or whatever. But in this debate, he did have fight in him. I will say he definitely had fight in him. Now, he did take a lot of lumps on the chin. He did take a lot of direct shots. There were multiple times where he really could not defend himself. He tried to pivot. He didn't answer questions.
Deflect,
so it was definitely uneven. It was questionable. But because he is the front runner, and I don't believe anybody really rose to like a clear win. I don't think you could say, Cory Booker shined above everybody else. In that first debate, Kamala Harris was definitely the winner. I don't think anybody had an other opinion. If you're being honest, if you're being objective, Kamala Harris shone the brightest in that first debate. But in this debate here, the second debate, you could make an argument that Cory Booker shined. You can make you can make the argument that Tulsi Gabbard shined. You could say Castro.
Inslee.
You could say Inslee.
That's it. Maybe that's probably it. But
Bill de Blasio had some very good lines, no doubt. He challenged Biden a couple of times.
So what you're saying is, if kind of no one stands out, the person who is considered the front runner doesn't get hurt.
Yes.
So yeah, I did not get my wish. I thought Joe Biden was going to completely screw the pooch.
Yeah.
And I unfortunately he didn't.
No, he didn't.
I personally don't like his performance, but I don't think he completely screwed himself.
No, he did enough to sustain himself, but. We'll get into
talking about more. Like the little beef between him and Kamala. He was aware of that.
Oh,
and I think, and he before this second debate.
Yeah. There was a
moment where both of them were featured. There was a moment before the debates where they greeted each other, and he was caught on a hot mic.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what he said, but he said, "Go easy on me, kid."
Yeah.
Or something.
Something like that.
I was like, "Go easy."
I mean, of
Go
course,
easy on me is whack, but then adding the kid on there, I'm like,
it was probably, of course, it was a little tongue.
It was probably a little tongue in cheek, but
still,
it
looks pretty weak.
It looks pretty whack and weak.
But okay, so again, you can make the argument that many of them shine, and I do believe that. I don't believe Michael Bennett had a good performance whatsoever. He kind of got lost. And when he talked, it was like I said, he said a few good things, but I think in the whole event, he kind of got lost. He's not a winner at all.
He's like a mini John Delaney. Not as whack.
He's not
as whack. And
there were multiple things he said that I was like, yeah.
He's definitely not like completely like corporately brainwashed.
No.
As John Delaney.
Actually, that's an insult, man. You owe that man a pot. Delaney?
No, I'm just saying
what?
like how he like comes off like in one area where he's always trying to like dismiss progressive values and progressive values.
Some progressive values.
Some progressive values.
Look, to be fair to him, he's definitely, like you said, he's not the corporate Democrat, the centrist that John Delaney is. I don't think you can put them in the same breath. But he is a centrist. He definitely still is a centrist. So I mean, you do have to admit that.
He just doesn't like go as hard.
Yeah. On some issues, he's going to be right there with us.
There, yeah.
So, but of course we don't support him. So like I said, I think he got lost. In thinking about it, you know who I think lost?
Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
I think she lost.
Again, we're with each other on this, and we haven't talked about it.
I think
we don't really
get into who won in this.
We don't get into we don't really get into a lot of the stuff that we talk about on the show before the show or off the show. So all the stuff you're hearing is just fresh.
Kamala Harris was First of all, she had those bad moments with Tulsi Gabbard.
Did she have a good moment?
Yeah. Look, she said some good things. On the issue of healthcare, she completely, and it was talked about post-debate as well. Because they were saying, look, Kamala Harris, the whole idea of Medicare for all is doing away with private insurance. But your plan has private insurance and you still consider it Medicare for all? Like, they were seeing in panels where they were like, we don't know how it's still considered Medicare for all. What are you doing, Kamala?
Well, I think we know what she's doing. Because she knows the power.
Oh, of course. We know what she's doing.
She knows the power that that plan has and that plan carries. She knows
10 years down
the rhetoric just the rhetoric alone, just saying Medicare for all and attaching that name to anything, your plan or your campaign strategy, or attaching it to your campaign website.
Right.
It comes with added value.
But
comes with added value.
The details, and it's not actually.
But she
Medicare
knows.
for all.
She knows that. That's why she wants to retain that name. She ain't gonna change that name. She ain't gonna change it.
So so she took a hit on healthcare, on immigration. I think on immigration we didn't show the clip, but she talked about her experience. She went to Homestead, Florida. She visited a private detention facility. It wasn't bad. Her commentary was not bad. Okay, so that's one. Criminal justice took a hit. Definitely took a hit. On climate, I can't even remember what she said on climate, if she even had a comment on climate. On the economy, we showed that clip of her talking about finding companies that were not paying women equal pay. Again, we speculated. We don't know how possible that is. I'm not sure how much that resonated with people. Maybe people. I mean, look, if it did the job, I'm sure there's a lot of people that was like, yeah, I mean, we got to do something. She's trying to be tough with these companies. She's trying to do something. So maybe that's a win for her. Foreign policy. I don't even have a comment. I don't even remember that. I think she did not stand out. And when she did stand out, she was taking a hit.
She was taking a hit
chin.
on shit, yeah.
So whatever she gained in the first debate, she kind of started losing already before this debate even started. So now this debate takes place, and she's not the shiny, bright object anymore. And
it's like even after that, the first debate, it's like she didn't receive a rise in the polls. As much as people thought. It was slight.
Yeah, she did.
It was slight, but it wasn't a lot. It wasn't a lot.
Yeah, I think she's the ultimate loser. Michael Bennett was already down in the polls, so you
just kind of he's like the outlier. You're kind of like, eh.
It's like he lost,
but
how much did he have to lose?
Yeah. It's
Kamala Harris.
Whatever. She had a lot to lose, and she lost. I wouldn't say she lost everything. This is what I don't want to do. This is what I don't want to do. Even though I kind of liked how Tulsi Gabbard, called her to the carpet. Mm-hmm. I ain't gonna go to the extreme. I'm not gonna sit there and say Tulsi Gabbard destroyed Kamala Harris's career. I'm like,
oh, yeah, we saw that.
I was like, okay, I understand. Maybe that's just. I know you understand what a career is, but maybe that's just like that. We call it Monday morning reaction.
It's a little theatrical.
Monday, what happens after Sunday. It's not football. You got a Monday overreactions. I understand. It was a big stage. It happened.
So reacting like it's in a vacuum.
Like it's in a vacuum. I don't think that happened. We were both speculating as to what Kamala Harris thought of that little engagement. Not only that, we're just wondering what Kamala Harris thinks of Tulsi Gabbard. You know what I'm saying?
Because we know this is
it's out there.
This is a strategy. This is Tulsi Gabbard's agenda right now. She wants to punch up at Kamala Harris.
So we know Kamala Harris is aware of it. But we didn't know whether she was aware of it. We know she's aware of it, but we didn't have definitive proof.
Right.
Now, somebody wasn't her spokesman responded?
Yeah, it was her
to the
it was her communications director.
Yeah, director.
That I believe it was.
This was in regard to the Fox Sports interview.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I have this. Yeah, actually, I have it right here. So, when we were talking about it, we didn't address this tweet. But after Tulsi Gabbard said that Kamala Harris lacked the temperament to be the next commander-in-chief and that she was not qualified because she has no experience on foreign policy, it was Lily Adams. Lily Adams is Kamala Harris's, her campaign's communications director. And on Twitter, she said, definite hard pass on taking national security advice from Assad's cheerleader.
That's weak. I never liked that being a talking point against Tulsi Gabbard.
We have never talked about it.
And if that's your if that's
never
all your
on it.
we never. If that is all your communications director has, that's a big eye roll.
It's animated though.
It's animated.
A lot of people would be like, "Oh, snap!"
But
got her.
See, I don't really care about that. That just told us that Kamala Harris's campaign is aware of Tulsi Gabbard's attack. So, but we weren't sure how extensive that awareness was. And again, we were talking about this like kind of periodically throughout the debate before the post-debate interviews. What happened on the post-debate interviews?
Yeah, so she sat down for some post-debate conversation with CNN, and she was asked about Tulsi Gabbard, and Kamala Harris, she led off by saying, well, look, I know I'm one of the top tier candidates. And then she says something. So
that's basically saying, so I know I'm going to get attacked.
Yes.
But
then she didn't specify Tulsi Gabbard's name, but she said lower tier candidates, something like lower tier candidates polling like at about 0.1%. They're going to come for me and this and that and this and that.
Basically, she's saying Tulsi no matter, which is funny because before we even saw the post-debate interview, we were saying that. We were like, does Kamala Harris, or is Kamala Harris really even concerned with Tulsi Gabbard?
Right. Because
of the polling. So we had that question.
Right.
And then we see the interview and we're like, oh, that's what it is.
And during the debate, now when the subject of criminal justice reform came up, she did have a response to Tulsi Gabbard. But when it was the first dust up between those two, when it was healthcare, she pivoted away from her and she turned her attention to Joe Biden. So Kamala Harris seemed to be like just disregarding Tulsi Gabbard.
And so, that's the moment, because when we look back to that moment when we were trying to answer that question, we were like, that moment where attention was directed towards Tulsi Gabbard and the conversation was between her and Kamala, she just like, oh, I'm sticking with Biden.
Right.
And so it does look like Kamala Harris in, some cases is not really concerned with any attacks that come from Tulsi Gabbard. So
this is now going forward, this is only going to be an issue if Tulsi Gabbard does qualify for the third debate. And I don't think as of yet she has.
Yeah.
So if she doesn't, it might signal the end of her campaign.
Yeah, and it's like, honestly, if she goes away, does do her attacks go away too? Do her attacks go away with her? You know what I'm saying?
Right. I don't know.
But speaking of Tulsi Gabbard, she came out wearing white.
She did.
She came out wearing white because most of the time they're wearing dark colors. Kamala Harris is wearing dark colors.
Yeah, it was a different sight.
It was a different sight. A lot of people, I know were talking about it. A lot of people were talking about how good she looked. It was like talking about how, man, Tulsi looking good today. I mean, did you hear anybody talk about that? How good Tulsi looked? Yeah. How, what I'm saying? A lot of people say, I didn't notice how, I ain't noticed that before, but tonight she looking kind of fine, kind of good. You know anybody who was saying that? You know what I'm saying? Did you see that out there? I know I saw it out there. I mean, did you see it out there?
Nah.
Oh, you didn't see that out there? Nobody was saying that?
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Okay.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. You ain't hear nobody talking about how Tulsi was looking extra good today? You know what I'm saying?
Tulsi Gabbard last night at the debate. I remember her wearing the white. Hold on, where was you at? I
was here. I was here.
You was talking to somebody else? You was talking.
I mean, I was online too, though. I mean, I was a lot of places.
So you was talking to somebody online?
I was talking.
Somebody was texting you like, "Yo, Toasty," like, "Woo."
There was people online too, also as well.
Two, okay, so you using okay, I get you. I still don't know what you're talking about. Man, somebody clue me in on what they're talking about. If y'all know, somebody hold it. Marlon said not only did Toasty look good, she has a lot of good positions. Yo, now see, this is something that people did. Django said she had her chest all shiny to get the thirst going.
Yo, I did notice that too, though. I was like, wait a second.
She did.
I was like, but I understand.
It was
like,
a little oily.
It was a little oily. Yeah. She put the oil on. I was like, I wonder who rubbed that on. You know what I'm saying?
Oh gosh. Man.
But but for real, like, but I mean, it makes sense. It depends on what you're wearing. If you're gonna wear something that shows your chest, like, you gotta pay attention not to just like the makeup on your face.
True.
You gotta, take care of that too.
True.
Good job.
True. She was looking good. She's an attractive woman, no doubt. She's an attractive woman. Huh. Somebody trying to put my blast here. You know what I'm saying? All right, but yeah, you know what? What I wanted to get to, kind of actually to close this out. We can't just talk about this one debate and not include the first debate. You know, the first night's debate.
For real.
So when we talk about winners and losers, and who fared the best, who didn't fare the best, we really have to talk. So I really want to point the conversation to Joe Biden, because even though I said Joe Biden, he definitely came prepared, to be, to be energized and actually go on the attack on some issues. He did that. He definitely did that. And on some occasions, he actually hit back at some people, and he showed well, on a couple occasions. Even though, like on healthcare, when he was pointing at, he's poking holes at Kamala Harris's plan, he was still poking holes at himself as well. So, like I said, he didn't come off nearly as bad as he did in the first debate. But there was something that we definitely did notice, okay? So, with the first night's debate, it was definitely CNN plus the moderate, centrist, corporate Democrats against Bernie Sanders. You can include Elizabeth Warren in there as well, because she was attacked as well, because she has the same progressive positions. But much of the conversations were led with Bernie ain't shit. Let's go after him. And, Elizabeth Warren, she would have to explain her positions, and she would have to defend herself as well. So I thought that they did a very good job at defending their positions and actually pushing back on these centrist
Warren and Biden. Warren and Sanders.
Yeah, Warren and Sanders did a very good job at being energetic and fighting for their very bold ideas and their progressive positions, and making no bones about it, saying that this is the way we have to go. And they did it in just like I said, a very enthusiastic way. Bernie Sanders with the I wrote the damn bill. Throw your hands up.
Enthusiastic and snappy and on the spot.
It didn't look forced. It looked like they were completely comfortable.
Not shaky
with their
at all.
Positions.
Not shaky.
No, they did a beautiful job, and they came out on head. I don't think the strategy employed by CNN and the strategy employed by these centrists, because there were like 5 of them on the stage, I don't think it worked, right? So I want to play a clip of John King on CNN, and this is what he had to say about, I guess, mixing the two debates together and how Biden showed compared to how Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren did.
Look, Biden got in the fight tonight, but just close your eyes and remember last night. Elizabeth Warren especially, Bernie Sanders as well, defending their progressive positions, defending go big, go bold on all these issues. Joe Biden got in the fight tonight, but the question was, the moderates last night tried, and I would argue failed, to counter the philosophical argument, the why are you doing this argument of Warren and Sanders. Biden didn't do that tonight either. That was the question coming in. Would he rise up with moderate Democrats, with centrists, like those 2 governors over there? Would you close your eyes and see Joe Biden winning a debate against Elizabeth Warren? I'm not saying he can't. He didn't tonight. If you took last night and merged it with tonight, he did not.
So see, that was our position too. We were thinking the same thing. Biden, it was an uneven performance. He did okay, But did he do as well as Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren? And if they were on the same stage as Joe Biden, what kind of performance would we be perceiving from Joe Biden?
He's been very consistent at kind of his analysis.
Yeah.
John King.
Yes,
John
he
King has been consistent.
I was kind of surprised.
I was surprised
the
because
take from CNN.
It's not just his takes overall,
Yeah.
but how he chose to engage with the candidates
Right.
during those post-debates interview. And it's kind
Challenging-
of like, hey.
challenging Booker.
Yeah, so I'm just like, whoa.
I was like, damn, okay.
Yeah. And I do think it is necessary to see these two debates together.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason why we're having separate debates is because there's 5,000 candidates.
Right, exactly.
That's the only reason why there's two
That's
debates,
the
because
only
we do
reason.
have to see them as one debate. It's just one debate broken up in two.
So really, if
we're
you're joining
combining
them, whose ideas were sold the best?
Sanders and Warren.
So you have to take that into account, and you have to put those two together and really, get a view or get a feeling of like, who did the best, like who argued their case the best, and it definitely was the progressives. So the third debate is on September 12th. So that's a little bit over a month away. And of course, there are new obligations, or there are new requirements. There are new requirements, qualifications that you have to meet. And it's, it's pretty much double what it was for the first two debates. So in terms of polling and in terms of overall contributors. So as of right now, I think only 8 have qualified. I believe only 8 have qualified.
I tell you what, if it stays that 8, they're just going to be doing one debate. They're not going to break it up into 2.
No, they definitely won't. No. Yang thought he had qualified for the next debate, but then the DNC smushed his face into a corner.
Yeah.
Because he was trying to use 2 NBC polls, which you can't use like the same.
Yeah.
Which
even if it's a joint poll.
Yeah, it was NBC and this company, and it was NBC and this other company, and he was trying to use both of them, but both of them contained NBC, and the DNC was like, nah, you can't do that. So as of yet, I don't believe he has qualified. It's going to be interesting. Does anybody get a jolt, some type of burst from their performance? The lower tier candidates, are they going to get a bolt? Are they going to emerge and get onto the debate stage in September? I don't know, man. I don't know if they did enough.
I'm not sure if they did enough. They're going to have to put some groundwork in. If
anybody's going to do it, I think it would be, Tulsi Gabbard definitely has a chance. I think Marianne Williamson has a chance, man. I think Marianne Williamson actually has a chance to make that third debate. I don't know if she will, but I definitely think she has a chance.
I heard that
De Blasio?
Maybe. I heard that Bernie received $1.1 million in donations the day after the first debate.
Good.
Can't remember the number of contributors. It was 70,000. I can't remember. Somebody may have those numbers.
Who I would definitely. I would like to see Tulsi and Marianne Williamson continue. I definitely would like both of them. I like both of them to continue. But one other guy,
Inslee.
Clark Kent. Yeah, I hope he does get in there. I hope he does qualify for it because I think his voice is an addition. I think it is. So we'll see what happens, man. But I think that's all we got for you. I don't think I had anything else. On CNN, David Axelrod, he said he was making the argument. The good news is that this was the best Biden could do, and the bad news is that this is the best Biden could do.
I don't know. I mean, how much better could he do actually?
Because he has to go on his record. I mean, he's going to have to defend his record, and that record is abysmal.
And maybe
his current positions are really abysmal too. Some of them. So
and you had Booker, rated higher than I did. Maybe his jive turkey lingo threw me off.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Could be.
Maybe it was the jive turkey type lingo that threw me off because he kind of was featured a couple of times.
Yeah.
And the first time he was like, keep your eyes on the prize, kind of like civil rights language. And then when him and Biden were going at it, he said something like, it's a saying from, what did he say? He's like, my community.
My community.
He's like, you're dipping into the Kool-Aid and don't know the flavor. And I was like, yeah, I've heard that saying.
I've never heard that.
I have, and that's something that black
heard
people
that.
used to say, you know. But
that
was like 20 years ago. So he's
You
not.
sure it was 20 years ago, man? When we were, you talking about the 90s?
Man, I don't know. It was all I know. It was a long time ago, and he's not actually keeping up with the lingo or the slang at all. You know, but those were two whack moments.
During that, like I said, during that back and forth with Biden, he had that one line which did draw like some reaction.
Yes.
And then he also had the one like, you really want to compare records?
Records? Oh yeah.
You really want to compare records
this
with me? Oh, please be my guest. And we know that, look, even no matter what you feel about Cory Booker, Biden's record is
Which is interesting.
worse.
Which is interesting because what did he say at the beginning, Will?
You talking about Cory Booker? What did he say?
Well, yeah.
Well, what was he suggesting, right? He was saying, like you said, keep your eyes on the prize. We don't want Democrats. He was pretty much saying
Democrats
like, civility
pitted against each other.
Pitted against each other. We got to remain focused on the true objective, which is beating Trump. And Trump is enjoying this, how we're attacking each other. That's what he used to evade answering the question of, you know, Medicare for all and private insurers. And
so he forgot all about that.
Oh, of course he did. Okay. When it was time to, you know, sink his claws in and forget all that. But yeah, like I said, that was about 2 hours, 40 minutes or so. Probably about 2.5 hours, really, because we probably got started about 10 minutes,
About
10 or so.
3.5 hours.
Damn, my bad. I said 2.
It's 3.5.
Yeah, it's 3.5 hours.
It's 10:40. So we started shortly after 7, probably like 7:05. So
3.5 hours,
yeah,
man. But look, we still have a lot of people with us tonight. So, look, we haven't done a call-in session all week because we haven't been able to. Couldn't do it on Tuesday night because of the debate. Couldn't do it Wednesday night because second night of the debate. So we're gonna get to it tonight. You know, if people want to call in, definitely feel free to. We're gonna put the, graphic up on the screen. We're gonna take a short break though. All right, we're gonna take a break for just a couple minutes, and then we're gonna come back. So please, if you still want to see a little bit of content, if you want to hear, some callers calling in, if you have something to say, if you want to make a comment, if you have a question. If you have something to discuss, please stick around. We are coming back. We're just going to take a couple minute break, and then we're going to come right back. All right? So we'll be right back.